How shrewd Yin Chujio was. She instantly understood that the nameless sword sect had a black bead as well. Moreover, Elder Duanmus' words were somewhat exaggerated. It was probably not that simple. This fellow was the most tactful. Although he had guessed it in his heart, he said cooperatively on the surface, "Elder Gus' words make sense. Then we'll set off early tomorrow morning. When we leave the Death Sand Sea, we can send a voice transmission talisman to the sect leader." Seeing that Yun Chujio did not continue to ask, Elder Duanmu and the other two heaved a sigh of relief. This little girl was so scheming that she almost let it slip. After dinner, Yun Chujio returned to her room. This fellow curiously looked inside his dantian and saw that the foodie's black bead was not different. If one looked closely, they would feel that it was a little brighter than before. The guy cursed with his spiritual sense, "You foodie. Other than eating my lightning bolts, you are also eating my spiritual stones. You are such a freeloader. Those pearls that you swallowed are not your descendants, are they? Haha, so you are a pervert." The motionless black bead was obviously infuriated. It started rolling inside He Xinjia's dantian. He Xinjio grimaced in pain. "Go Weiba Xiao Jingjing, take care of it for me. If you guys don't listen to me, he'll cut open your stomach with a large kitchen knife right now and not your dantian." He Xinjio originally thought that with such a threat, Guai Chao and the Great Void Mirror would help her take care of the black bead. Who would have thought that the two masters did not seem to hear her and just watched the show calmly? Please visit Pan 1. Co. He Xinjio was both in pain and anger. She was someone who never suffered a loss, yet she was being bullied by these three scoundrels. This was intolerable. However, no matter how she thought about it, there was nothing she could do. She was afraid of harming the rats. She couldn't really destroy her dantian just to get rid of them, could she? This guy suddenly had a flash of inspiration. She was really stupid. There was not only one angle to solve the problem. Although she could not get rid of these three scammers for the time being, she could still blackmail them. Therefore this guy endured the intense pain in his dantian and said through gritted teeth, "Glass ball, if you don't want to swallow other beads, you can just jump around as you please. I can even endure the pain of my meridians being broken, let alone your little torment." The black bead's jumping movements suddenly stopped. Yun Chujio continued sneering. "And go Weiba, don't think that just because you can control my body that you have something good to eat. Your brain is a good thing, but it's a pity that you don't have it. Therefore, even if you control my body, you won't achieve your goal. Xiao Jingjing, don't forget that you still have a piece of debris that you haven't found yet. If you like incomplete beauty, feel free to watch the show. I don't care anyway." He Xinjia's words clearly hit the sore spot of the three scammers. However, He Xinjio clearly did not intend to let them go just like that. She said coldly again, "Don't forget that I'm your host now. If I can't recover, don't even think about it. You have been waiting for me as your host for a long time, haven't you? If anything happens to me, it will be difficult for you to find the next host. If you are good, I am good. If you are good, I will try my best to meet your requirements. After all, I am a very protective person. However, if you think that you can threaten me with means, humph, you still do not understand me. Even that old bastard Tian Dao cannot threaten me, let alone the three of you. At worst, we will fight to the death." After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she did not speak anymore. She used her spiritual sense to look at the three scammers coldly. Guai Chao was the first to admit defeat. It formed a heart shape with its leaves and shook it at Yun Chujio. The Great Void Mirror and the Black Bead were not as shameless as this guy. Although they did not say anything, they returned to their usual appearance. They each occupied a corner and did not move. Yun Chujio snorted coldly and then withdrew her spiritual sense. At this moment, her forehead and body were covered in cold sweat. She could not help but clench her fists. Sooner or later, she would think of a way to get these three damn things out. When that time came, she would let them know the consequences of offending her. She took a shower and then lay on the bed to think about the matter of the bead. She could basically determine that not only did the Nameless Sword sect have the black bead, the other sects most likely had the black bead. Otherwise, during the auction, there wouldn't be so many people bidding for it. Moreover, the black bead must have a big secret. Back then, that piece of trash, Lan Luochen, had gone to Chaotian sect to put on a show just to get that bead. If it wasn't because of the important matter, he wouldn't have spent so much effort. What kind of secret was it? If these small beads were related to a big secret, then wouldn't the black bead in her dantian have a big secret? When her cheap grandfather gave her the black bead, he said that the bead was passed down from her ancestors. He didn't know the exact origin of the bead. Coincidentally, she was also a member of the Yun family, which was why she recognized her as her master. What was the origin of this black bead? Sometimes He Xingjiu felt that her heart was big. There were 3 unknown species living in her dantian, yet she was still eating and sleeping soundly. She thought of the sunflower water that she hadn't come to yet. Fortunately, cultivators lived much longer than ordinary people. She could still shamelessly say that she was a little girl, or else she would cry herself to death. Please visit Pan 1. Co. In the end, she comforted herself. As long as she kept her heart and walked forward step by step, all the problems would be solved one day. Early the next morning, Chu Fang knocked on the door. Junior sister Yun, wake up. We will set off after breakfast. He Xingjiu held back her anger and got up. After tidying up briefly, she followed Chu Fang to the first floor for breakfast. After breakfast and counting the money, the 5 of them left the King of Hell's residence and headed to the gate of the ghost city. There were many ghost guards and a few stewards gathered at the gate. They must have not given up on searching for the bead and wanted to see the flaws in the faces of the people who left the city. He Xingjiu naturally did not feel uncomfortable at all. She swaggered out of the city gate and turned her head to look at the stones that were used to build the city wall. She felt rather regretful. It would be great if she could take these stones with her. Pialfa knew most of the people who came to the ghost city of Tao Tai returned at this time, so many people came to greet Elder Duanmu and the others. A moment later, Island Master Qi brought more than 10 people out of the ghost city. His face was a little gloomy. Well, no matter who was cheated of more than 100 million spirit stones, their mood wouldn't be good. However, he didn't know that the person who cheated him was He Xingjiu, so he came over to say a few polite words and then took his people away. Before Xiaoyu left, she glared fiercely at Yun Chujiu, but Yun Chujiu did not say a word. This fellow was very shrewd. There were many people on the Flying Flower Island, so if they were to fight, they would not be able to gain any advantage, so it was better to endure it. Actually, He Xingjiu did not know that the person she had conned was Island Master Qi, but she felt that the person she had conned was either someone from the Flying Flower Island or the Ascension Island. This fellow would rather con Island Master Qi. Elder Dongfang indicated for the few of them to set off later, in case Yun Chujiu and Xiaoyu from the Flying Flower Island had another conflict. He Xingjiu recalled that she had earned another 5 million from the good stuff, so she did not care about the sun above her head and hummed a little tune along the way. Chu Fang, who was sweating profusely, saw that not only did Yun Chujiu not break a sweat, but she even had the strength to hum a little tune. He sighed in his heart. A monster was indeed a monster. At this moment, Island Master Qi and the others suddenly returned with panic on their faces. The other people who had left the city earlier followed closely behind, their faces filled with terror. Run! Run! The sandstorm of death is coming. Quick, enter the city. Quickly enter the ghost city or well be buried alive. Elder Duanmu and the other 2 turned pale with fright when they heard this. They didn't have time to say anything else. Elder Duanmu carried Yun Chujiu and Elder Gu carried Chu Fang as they ran desperately in the direction of the ghost city. He Xingjiu was stunned. It was the first time she saw Elder Duanmu and the others show such a terrified expression. Although she was very curious, she didn't dare to ask any more questions. Fortunately, they didn't walk too far. The guards of the ghost city had obviously heard the news and didn't stop them, allowing them to enter the ghost city. After they entered the ghost city, they heaved a sigh of relief. Some of them collapsed on the ground. Yun Chujiu then lowered her voice and asked Chu Fang, "Senior brother Chu, what is the sandstorm of death? Is it that scary? Please visit Pan 1. Co. Chu Fang's face was slightly pale. The reason why the sandstorm of death got its name is because of the sandstorm of death. Although the sandstorm of death is essentially a sandstorm, the power of the sandstorm of death is extremely great. Not to mention humans, even the largest demonic beast would be violently swept up into the sky. This is nothing. The most terrifying thing is that the sandstorm of death is mixed with wind blades. No matter how high one's spiritual power is, they would not be able to save their lives." Yun Chujiu nodded, however she was still somewhat puzzled. "Senior brother Chu, if the sandstorm of death is so terrifying, wouldn't there be no living creatures in the sandstorm of death? However, didn't we see some demonic beasts when we came here?" Chu Fang smiled bitterly. "You might not have noticed, but those demonic beasts are not too high level. This is because the sandstorm of death blows once every 100 years. Those demonic beasts were obtained from other deserts by the people of the ghost city of Tao Tai." Yun Chujiu thought about it and realized that it was true. Those demonic beasts were all low-level demonic beasts. Chu Fang muttered to himself, "It's just that there are still a few years before the 100 years. How could it be brought forward?" Yun Chujiu didn't pay attention to Chu Fang's muttering. She looked at the cultivators pouring into the city gates and thought that this ghost city shouldn't be affected by the sandstorm of death. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be in such a hurry to return. Thinking about it, it made sense. This ghost city had existed for God knows how many years. If there was nothing strange about it, it would have been buried by the desert long ago. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, Elder Dongfang said, "Let's go back to the King of Hell's residence. This sandstorm of death will last for a few days. If we're late, we probably won't have any good rooms." The 5 of them arrived at the King of Hell's residence. As soon as they chose a room, Island Master Chi came over with his subordinates. Yun Chujio thought to herself, "Damn it, the road between enemies is narrow." Perhaps because they were in the same situation now, Island Master Chi was more polite to Elder Duanmu and the others than before. They even sat down and started chatting. According to common sense, this sandstorm of death will take at least 3 years. How could it be brought forward for no reason? Elder Jia of Flying Flower Island said with a frown. Chapter 4166. The Terrifying Sandstorm of Death. That's right. If we had known about the sandstorm of death, we wouldn't have come even if the gluttonous ghost city had some good stuff, Elder Dongfang said with a sigh. Island Master Chi's eyes flashed when he heard that. He felt a little comforted when he thought about how the Nameless Sword sect had failed to bid for the 1,000-year-old black iron because of his interference. Although he had spent more than 100 million spirit stones, he had at least gotten the water avoidance bead. It was better than the Nameless Sword sect not getting anything at all. The few of them started chatting with each other. The main topic was to guess why the death sandstorm was brought forward. In the end, they could not come up with a reason. In the end, they comforted each other. This death sandstorm will only last for 5 days at most. We can return when the time comes. That's true. Since the death sandstorm can't drag us into the ghost city, we can just stay here for a few more days. Yin Chujio thought to herself. Perhaps the happiest place would be the ghost city of Taotai. If these people stayed for a few more days, they would have a few more days of income. Moreover, they could also check the whereabouts of the bead. Of course, the last one could be ignored because the bead had already been swallowed by the black bead. No matter how the people of the ghost city of Taotai checked, they would not be able to find any results. While everyone was talking, the light in the room dimmed and a loud boom was heard. Everyone rushed out of the room and saw that the protective shield above the ghost city was already piled up with a thick layer of yellow sand. Moreover, the wind blades wrapped in the wild wind were constantly cutting through the protective shield of the ghost city. It was the first time that most people saw such a terrifying situation. Those huge wind blades seemed to be able to cut through the protective shield of the ghost city at any time. Island Master Chi and the others' faces were also somewhat pale. Admittedly, they were already top-notch mighty figures in the towering sky continent, but faced with such a natural disaster, it was the first time they felt their own weakness. Xiao Yu said with a trembling voice, "Master, how are these protective barriers supported? If they are supported by spirit stones, it can't be that they will break because of the exhaustion of spirit stones, right?" Upon hearing Xiao Yu's words, Island Master Chi and the others looked at each other. They had thought too optimistically before. This sandstorm of death was much more terrifying than they had imagined. Although their sects and the ghost city of Taotai had always stayed out of each other's way, now that they were all in the same boat, it was necessary to sit down and discuss. Thus, Island Master Chi asked someone to call a ghost messenger who was patrolling the streets to send a message to the manager of the ghost city of Taotai. A moment later, the ghost messenger received a reply. He bowed and said, "My lords, our manager should have come to invite you in person. But Tower Master Luochin and the other lords are also here, so please follow me to the City Master's mansion in the Ghost City." At this time, Island Master Chi and the others naturally wouldn't argue. They immediately followed the ghost messenger to the City Master's mansion. Although it was called the City Lord's Mansion, it was actually the office of the Ghost City of Taotai. The few auction houses behind the Ghost City of Taotai would take turns to send people to be the City Lord of the Ghost City. However, other than the Ghost City of Taotai, which only happened once every 5 years, the Ghost City usually didn't have many people. Therefore, the City Lord was just a title. This year, the City Lord's turn was Manager's son, who had previously traded with Yin Chujio. His mood was quite complicated now. On one hand, he was a little excited. Due to the advance of the sandstorm of death, the guests could stay for a few more days, and he could increase his income at the same time. He could also check the whereabouts of the black bead. On the other hand, he saw that the sandstorm of death this time was more brutal than any of the previous records. He could not help but feel a little anxious, afraid that something would happen to the protective array of the ghost city. After all, even he did not know where the core of the protective array of the ghost city was. let alone maintaining it. Chapter 4167 Discussion. When Yun Chujio and the others arrived, there were already quite a number of people gathered in the city lord's residence's meeting hall. Yun Chujio saw Tower Master Luochen at first glance. It wasn't that she intentionally went to see him, but the moment she entered, Tower Master Luchen's gaze shot over. It was difficult for her not to notice. Xiao Yu saw Tower Master Luchen's burning gaze looking at Yun Chujio, and her heart was filled with bitterness and hatred. She simply wished she could throw Yun Chujio out of the city and be sliced into pieces by the wind blades. Yun Chujio deliberately ignored Tower Master Luchen's gaze and glanced at the others. Those seated were the elders of the other sects, and behind them stood the disciples of their respective sections. Manager Sun said some polite words and let Island Master Qi and the others take their seats. After the servants served tea, Manager Sun then said, "Everyone, this time the Taotai Ghost City has experienced many twists and turns. Previously, there was the matter of losing the auction item, and now the sandstorm of death has arrived ahead of schedule. Although these are all unpredictable, our Taotai Ghost City should still apologize to everyone. I'm sorry." After Manager Sun finished speaking, he stood up and bowed to everyone. Tower Master Luochen and the others quickly supported him and said some polite words. He Xinjiu, who was standing behind Elder Duanmu, thought to herself, "This Manager Sun is really smart. After he said these words, no one would say anything wrong. After all, these are all unpredictable things, aren't they?" Manager Sun said a few more polite words sincerely, then he got to the point. "Everyone, to be honest, although our ghost city of Taotai has been in charge of the ghost city for many years, we always withdraw from the ghost city before the sandstorm of death arrives. This is the first time we are trapped in a ghost city. Moreover, we have searched for so many years, but we haven't found the core of the ghost city's formation. We also don't know what kind of formation this protective shield is made of." Hearing this, Tower Master Luochen and the others' expressions changed slightly. Did this mean that they could only resign themselves to fate? If the protective array's rune spirit stones were exhausted or something happened to the array core, wouldn't they be doomed? After a moment of silence, Elder Qi of Xuanji sect said, "We can't just sit here and wait for death. There should be many array masters in this ghost city. Why don't we immediately arrange for people to look for the array core?" Everyone expressed their agreement. If they found the array core, they would feel more at ease. Otherwise, it would really make them feel uneasy. Manager Sun nodded as well, then he said, "Elder Qi is right. We will immediately start to do it. However, everyone must be mentally prepared. We, the Taotai Ghost City, have been searching for years without finding the array core. I'm afraid we won't be able to find it in a short period of time. Therefore, we should build a temporary protective array at the same time. Once the protective array of the ghost city is broken, at least we will have a place to stay. Everyone, don't worry. The materials and spirit stones needed will all be provided by our ghost city of Taotai. All you need to do is to send an array master. What do you all think?" Yun Chujio thought to herself that the ghost city of Taotai had made a good plan. If they could build another protective array, even if it was a temporary one, they would only make a profit. After all, no amount of money could buy a protective array that gathered the heads of the families. With this protective array, as long as they maintained it well in the future, they could use it for a long time. Moreover, Yun Chujio was sure that everyone present would agree. After all, they were all in the same boat now. Everyone wanted an extra layer of protection. After all, the death sandstorm outside was too scary. Sure enough, Tower Master Luochen and the others all agreed with Manager Sun's suggestion. They sent their elders and disciples who were good at arrays to help the Taotai Ghost City build a temporary protective array. Chapter 4168 Sitting in a row to wipe away tears in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed, and the sandstorm of death did not show any signs of weakening. Another 3 days had passed, and the sandstorm of death was still raging ferociously. A shadow began to loom over everyone's hearts. According to common sense, the sandstorm of death would only last for 5 days, so how could it last for such a long time this time? Everyone comforted themselves. Perhaps it would end in another day or two. They would wait a little longer. However, until the 10th day, the sandstorm of death still did not stop. It was even more ferocious than before. What made everyone even more fearful was that the ghost city's protective barrier began to tremble. Could it be that it was going to be broken? There were still no clues about the core of the ghost city's protective barrier. The temporary protective barrier had been built, but everyone was not sure. After all, the power of the sandstorm of death was too strong. How long could the temporary protective barrier last? The people in the ghost city were instantly anxious. Countless people regretted not participating in the ghost city of Tao Tai. There were also countless people who regretted not returning the night before. Yun Chujio sat on the steps at the entrance of the inn. Looking at the thick yellow sand on the protective barrier and the huge wind blades that were constantly cutting the protective barrier, she was somewhat stunned. Just as she was lost in her thoughts, a mocking voice came from the side. Yun Chujio, you are really heartless. At this time you still have the mood to be in a daze. Yun Chujio turned her head and saw Xiaoyu standing not far away from her with a disdainful expression. Yun Chujio ignored her and continued to look up at the sky. Seeing Yun Chujio ignoring her, Xiaoyu became even angrier. She walked a few steps closer to her and said fiercely, "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me talking to you?" Yun Chujio looked at her speechlessly and said indifferently, "Miss Xiaoyu, Sister Xiaoyu, Aunt Xiaoyu, now that our lives are at stake, do you still have the intention to compete with me? In the end, isn't it because of Tower Master Luochen that you hate me so much? If you like him, feel free to chase after him. Why are you always finding trouble with me for no reason? I don't like him. Moreover, even if you want to hate me, it should be because I hate you, right? If it wasn't for my courtyard being snatched away by Senior Uncle Master Zhuang Hong, I would have been disfigured by you. I haven't even gotten even with you, and you still have the cheek to show off in front of me? If you want to fight, just wait until we become ghosts." Xiaoyu was rendered speechless by Yun Chujio's words and actually didn't know how to refute. That's right, why did she hate Yun Chujio? It seemed to be for Tower Master Luochen, but Yun Chujio didn't like Tower Master Luochen. Why did she hate her? Xiaoyu was momentarily trapped in a dead end by Yun Chujio, so she stood there in a daze. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with her and patted the seat beside her. It's tiring to stand and think. Sit down and think. Xiaoyu was also confused and actually sat on the steps beside Yun Chujio. Xiaoyu recalled that she had repeatedly tried to be friendly with Tower Master Luochen, but each time she was mercilessly rejected. He was even willing to marry Yun Chujio, this trash, but he wasn't willing to marry her. Was she really that bad? The more Xiaoyu thought about it, the sadder she became and her tears couldn't help but fall. He Xinjiu, who was beside her, was also wiping her tears. Of course, this fellow wasn't crying because he was sad, but because he was shaken by the sunlight. Although the sunlight was blocked by a lot of yellow sand, Yun Chujio had been looking at the sky for too long, so her eyes were still pierced with tears. Just as Yun Chujio was wiping her tears with a handkerchief, Chu Feng came out. He came out to call Yun Chujio to come in for dinner. When he saw her and Xiaoyu sitting in a row and wiping their tears, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Strange things happened every year, and this year there were especially many. Weren't the two of them like fire and water? Why were they sisters now? Could it be that Xiaoyu was tricked by junior sister Yun again? Chapter 4169, Where are you going? Chu Feng coughed lightly. Junior sister Yun, it's time for lunch. Xiaoyu suddenly came back to her senses and realized that she had actually sat beside Yun Chujio and cried for quite a while. She was immediately angered from embarrassment and was about to flare up when she saw Yun Chujio's eyes that were as red as a rabbit. She was wiping her tears with a handkerchief. Xiaoyu wanted to curse, but she choked and snorted coldly, "Yun Chujio, even if you know your mistake now, even if you cry in front of me, I won't forgive you. Just you wait." After Xiaoyu said that, she turned around and left. Hey Xinjiu, is this little bitch crazy? She was only hurt by the sunlight. When did she cry? Chu Feng saw that Xiaoyu had already entered the house. He asked in a low voice, "Junior sister Yun, are you tricking that Xiaoyu again? Don't make her suffer too much. After all, we are all trapped here. It's not good if we cause a ruckus." Hey Xinjiu, senior brother Chu, eat more lamb liver at noon. Hey Xinjiu said faintly. Chu Feng looked at her blankly. Lamb livers? What? Yun Chujio looked at him sympathetically. Because your eyesight isn't very good. Chu Feng. Yun Chujio ignored the dumbfounded Chu Feng and went into the house to have lunch. Although she was trapped here, the King of Hell's residence still had sufficient reserves, so lunch was still quite sumptuous. During lunch, Yun Chujio helped Chu Feng pick up a few pieces of lamb liver, which made Elder Duanmu and the others look suspicious. What was wrong with this little girl again? After lunch, Yun Chujio went out of the house and continued to sit on the steps and look at the sky. Xiaoyu stood at the door and bit her lip, but she still walked to her side and snorted coldly, "Yun Chujio, is there something wrong with your brain? Can you see flowers just by looking at them?" Yun Chujio did not say a word and continued to look at the sky. Xiaoyu could not help but be angry. Just as she was about to say something, Yun Chujio stood up, went down the steps and slowly walked towards the south. Xiaoyu took a few steps and chased after her. "Where are you going?" Yun Chujio finally turned her head and glanced at her. Miss Xiaoyu, we don't seem to be that close, right? Why do you care where I go? Stay away from me. Xiaoyu's face flushed red from being choked. She said angrily, Yun Chujio, don't flatter yourself. I don't care where you go. I'm just afraid that you'll cause trouble. It's already troublesome enough for us to be trapped here. You're also a troublemaker and a jinx, so I naturally have to keep an eye on you. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. She bared her little white teeth at Xiaoyu. Am a jinx? Then aren't you afraid that you'll be unlucky if you get too close to me? If you have the spare time, you might as well look for your sweetheart. Why do I feel that you're more interested in me than him? Could it be that you've fallen in love with me? Xiaoyu was so angry that her head was buzzing. She had never seen such a shameless person. A girl's skin was actually so thick. How shameless. By the time Xiaoyu regained her senses, Yun Chujio had already walked far away. She stomped her feet and followed after her. Xiaoyu herself knew that based on her incompatible relationship with Yun Chujio, she was a little abnormal today. She did not want to be like this either, but as she was trapped for longer and longer, everyone's faces were filled with worry. Staying in the King of Hell's residence made her feel like she was suffocating. Only Yun Chujio, who was heartless, was still smiling cheekily. Although she would be angered to death by being by her side, it was still better than being suppressed by the atmosphere. Chapter 4170, Go chase after him. Xiaoyu caught up to Yun Chujio with a few leaps and followed behind Yun Chujio in silence. Yun Chujio was speechless. What was wrong with this Xiaoyu? Why did she stick to her today? Was her charm already so great now? Even a woman could not help but fall in love with her? After a while, Xiaoyu could no longer hold it in. Yun Chujio, this is the direction to the city gate. Don't tell me you want to leave the city to die? If I were to throw my life away, wouldn't that be in your favor? Could it be that you can't bear to see me die now? Don't tell me you're really in love with me? Yun Chujio turned her head and said slyly. Xiaoyu was so angry that she staggered and pointed at Yun Chujio while trembling. You're shameless. Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders indifferently. I'm shameless. What do you want? Although it's impossible for me to fall in love with you, it's not a crime to love someone. Just admit it. Xiaoyu was so angry that she nearly vomited blood. If this wasn't a ghost city, she would definitely pull out the sinking pulp sword and kill this shameless trash. After teasing Xiaoyu, Yun Chujio continued to walk towards the city gate. Xiaoyu stomped her feet and followed after her. She wanted to see what Yun Chujio wanted to do. A moment later, Yun Chujio and Xiaoyu arrived near the city gate. The city gate was extremely important, so not only were there many ghost guards, there were also many cultivators who volunteered to help guard it. Although those people were somewhat surprised when they saw Yun Chujio and Xiaoyu, no one said anything. Yun Chujio climbed up the city wall along the steps of the city wall. Xiaoyu thought for a moment and followed after her. Xiaoyu saw the situation outside and could not help but reveal a terrified expression. This was 100 times more terrifying than what she saw in the city. As far as the eye could see, the overwhelming yellow sand and huge wind blades were like a ferocious beast constantly biting at the ghost city's protective barrier. The protective barrier constantly trembled as if it would break at any moment. Xiaoyu's face was deathly pale. At this moment she no longer cared about how much she hated Yun Chujio. She said with a trembling voice, Do you think this protective barrier will shatter? If the protective barrier were to shatter, would we not be able to survive? According to this trend, we can only hold on for 10 days at most. The temporary protective array that we built can only hold on for 2 days at most, so we only have 12 days left to live. Every day we live is 1 day less. Yun Chujio said with a sigh. Xiaoyu was obviously frightened. She squatted on the ground and started sobbing. She had not lived enough. She did not want to die. People were like this. It was fine if they killed you with a knife, but someone forced you with a knife but did not kill you. It made you feel the shadow of death at any time. This kind of torture could simply make people collapse. Yun Chujio looked at the crying Xiaoyu with a speechless expression. She used the tip of her foot to gently kick her. What's the use of crying? Can you cry the sandstorm of death to death? Don't you love that Lan Luochen the most? Why don't you use these last 12 days to chase after him? Give him some medicine or something. It's not a waste for you to chase after him for so many years. Xiaoyu's crying came to an abrupt end with a dumbfounded expression. It was obvious that she was shocked by Yun Chujio's words. What are you looking at me for? Quickly go and drug him. Although that Lan Luochen is a scum, his looks are passable. You won't lose out even if you sleep with him. Yun Chujio said slyly, like a wolf with a big tail. Xiao Yu's face flushed red and she stood up immediately. You are shameless. You are shameless. Chapter 4171. I hate you. Yun Chujio spread her hands. You are such an interesting person. I'm doing this for your own good. You have already shouted and shouted at me for Lan Luchen's sake. Why are you cowardly now that things have come to this? Do you not have any medicine to return? I can refine it for you now. It will be cheaper for you. 10,000 spirit stones each. Are you buying it or not? Xiao Yu was so angry that she was twitching, but she knew that she could not win against Yun Chujio, so she simply did not speak anymore. Her gaze was dull as she looked at the raging yellow sand and gigantic wind blades outside. Yun Chujio saw that she had stopped, so she did not speak anymore. Her gaze was dim as she looked outside. Xiao Yu's heart was in a mess at this moment. She also felt that she was very strange. Seeing that she did not have many days left to live, she did not even have the thought of looking for Tower Master Luochen. In the face of life and death, it was as though these feelings and love had become unimportant. Compared to looking for Tower Master Luochen, she would rather be angered to death by staying by Yun Chujio's side. At the very least, this would allow her to temporarily forget the fear of death. She gave a bitter smile. Perhaps she did not like Tower Master Luochen that much. All she fought for was one breath. If she was in front of Tower Master Luochen in life, she would not hesitate to choose life. Sometimes it was just so strange. Falling in love with someone and not falling in love with someone was just a matter of an instant. The man who was originally as dazzling as the stars, now that she thought about it, did not seem to have anything worth liking. How good could a man like Yun Chujio, who was a good-for-nothing, be? She had wasted a lot of time for him, giving up the reserve of a young girl for him, but in the end, what did she get in return? After a long while, Xiao Yu clenched her fist and said, Yun Chujio, the grudge between you shall be written off. I won't find trouble with you in the future. But I still hate you. Do you know how annoying your heartless look is? Yun Chujio glanced at her. What a coincidence. I also hate you. Do you know how annoying your self-righteous look is? Xiao Yu snorted coldly and did not speak. The best relationship between her and Yun Chujio was a stranger. Yun Chujio ignored her and walked around the city wall. Xiao Yu could not help but ask, What are you doing? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Digesting food. I ate a little too much for lunch. Xiao Yu, she should not have any illusions about this trash. She thought that this trash had some good idea, but it turned out that he was just taking a stroll. It was simply infuriating. Xiao Yu really wanted to throw her hands away and leave, but when she thought of the atmosphere in King of Hell's residence, she still followed behind Yun Chujio with a sullen face and circled around the city wall like a donkey pulling a mill. Only when the sky turned dark did Yun Chujio come down from the city wall and strolled leisurely towards the inn. Xiao Yu wanted to say something, but when she thought of Yun Chujio's eloquence, she gave up. The next day, Yun Chujio finished her breakfast and continued strolling slowly towards the city wall. Xiao Yu gritted her teeth and followed after her. In the end, Yun Chujio strolled around the city wall for another day. She did not even return to the inn for lunch. She only ate a few meat buns. Xiao Yu wanted to leave a few times but decided to stay. She felt that she was most likely sick and accompanied this trash around the city wall. When Chu Feng, who had not seen Yun Chujio for a day, came to look for her, he saw Yun Chujio strolling leisurely in front while Xiao Yu followed behind like a bullied wife. Chapter 4172. Why is she following you? Chu Feng scanned Yun Chujio and Xiao Yu a few times and felt that he was probably seeing things. Oh God. The world had really changed. Cats and mice could actually become friends. Fire and water could actually coexist peacefully. Xiao Yu saw Chu Feng's dull expression and immediately felt that she was utterly stupid. She actually followed Yun Chujio, this trash, to wander around the city wall for a day. She was simply sick. Xiao Yu was filled with depression, but she did not dare to rebuke Yun Chujio, so she shouted at the dull Chu Feng, What are you looking at? If you continue looking, I'll dig out your eyeballs. Chu Feng, who did he offend? He was scolded for nothing. However, he thought that it was a critical period now, so he had to endure it, so he pretended not to hear it. He said to Yun Chujio, Junior sister Yun, have you been wandering on the city walls all day? It's almost time for dinner and it's already dark. Come back with me. Xiao Yu snorted coldly. A grown man is always so wishy-washy, coming to call people back for dinner whenever he has nothing to do. He's really free. Chu Feng, take a step back and be patient. Seeing Chu Feng's stiff face, Yun Chujio found it funny in her heart, but she didn't say anything. She just nodded and followed Chu Feng in the direction of the inn. Seeing this, Xiao Yu sped up and surpassed the two of them, walking towards the inn with a straight face. Chu Feng deliberately slowed down his pace, and Yun Chujio understood and slowed down her pace. When Xiao Yu had walked a distance away, only then did Chu Feng lower his voice and say, "Junior Sister Yun, is this Xiao Yu sick? Why is she following you? Did you trick her again?" Yun Chujio speechlessly glanced at Chu Feng. "Senior brother Chu, don't always think that I'm so bad, okay? How can such a kind little girl like me trick people?" Chu Feng really wanted to shout at Yun Chujio, "Do you believe what you say?" However, he did not dare to. Yun Chujio continued, "As for why that idiot Xiao Yu followed me, the reason is very simple, she is afraid of death." Chu Feng was stunned, he did not quite understand the meaning behind Yun Chujio's words. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. "The atmosphere in the ghost city is stifling. She followed me just to temporarily forget about the shadow of death. After all, being by the side of such an outstanding person like me naturally gives her a sense of security." The corner of Chu Feng's eyes twitched violently. He felt that this guy in front of him was getting more and more shameless. Yun Chujio restrained her smile. She said indifferently, her previous love for that scum Lan Luochen was not love. It was nothing more than the infatuation of a young girl. In the face of death, her silly little infatuation was naturally not worth mentioning. Since she doesn't like Lan Luochen, there's naturally no need for her to go against me. In addition, she doesn't know any familiar girls. As an enemy, I have become exceptionally lovable. Sometimes, the persistence that she had been brooding over would become exceptionally laughable in the face of life and death. Xiao Yu's change was because she felt the threat of death. If not for this incident, she would still fight to the death with Yun Chujio like before, seeking death for a person who did not love her at all and was not someone she truly loved. It had to be said that if she did not die this time, Xiao Yu could be considered to have profited. At least she had found herself again. Chu Feng, who was listening by the side, was confused. In the end, he concluded that Xiao Yu, that arrogant and domineering young miss, had been brainwashed by junior sister Yun. Chapter 4173. Why did you come with us? When Chu Feng and Yun Chujio returned to the inn, Xiao Yu had already washed her hands and sat at the dining table to eat. Due to the current tense situation, Elder Duanmu and the others didn't distinguish themselves from Island Master Qi. They temporarily put aside their past grudges and ate their meals together. After eating a little, Island Master Qi and the others put down their chopsticks. Clearly they were not in the mood. Instead, they began to discuss the current situation. "We haven't found the core of the protective array. The temporary protective array can only last for 2 days after the test. This sandstorm of death doesn't have any signs of stopping. Can we just sit and wait for death?" Elder Jia of Flying Flower Island sighed and said. Everyone's expression turned solemn and they put down their chopsticks at the same time. Xiao Yu's action of picking up the food paused. This was the reason why she was willing to suffer by Yun Chujio's side. As long as she returned to the inn, she would hear them sigh, making her feel very depressed. She caught a glimpse of Yun Chujio and Chu Feng sitting at a separate table to eat after washing their hands. She hesitated for a moment before holding her rice bowl and sitting next to Yun Chujio. This trash had no other advantages. At least he would eat with her and would not say anything discouraging. Island Master Qi caught a glimpse of Xiao Yu's actions and could not help but be dumbfounded. Didn't this disciple of his hate Yun Chujio, that smelly girl, the most? What kind of madness had he gone through these past 2 days? Why was he still trying to push his luck? However, he was only stunned for a moment. At this moment, he naturally didn't have the mood to think about such trivial matters. He continued Elder Jia's words and said, "Yeah, I didn't expect that we would end up being trapped here, and it's very likely that we would lose our lives here." Really? What he wanted to say was really ironic. Most of the people who came to participate in the ghost city of Tao Tai were people of high status, but they ended up dying here with a huge amount of money and treasures on them. Was there anything more ironic than this? Elder Duanmu and the others also sighed repeatedly. They were not array masters and could not be of much help. Even if their spirit energy was not low, once the protective array failed and they were enveloped by the sandstorm of death, they could only last for 15 minutes at most. It was deathly silent over here, but Yun Chujio and the other two were eating enthusiastically. Xiao Yu would snatch whichever dish Yun Chujio picked. Hei Xinjia's eyebrows immediately stood up. Xiao Yu usually bullied her so she could ignore it. Yet she was actually snatching food from her. Was she courting death? Hence, their chopsticks turned into treasured swords and they actually began to gesture on the table. The bitter Chu Fang silently guarded a plate of pickled vegetables that was close to him. He randomly ate a few mouthfuls of the spirit rice and cursed in his heart. If he had known earlier, he would have called for these two ancestors after finishing his meal. The next morning, after eating breakfast, Yun Chujio strolled out of the inn. This time, Xiaoyu did not even struggle with her thoughts as she followed. Chu Fang looked at the room full of people who were sighing and followed. Xiaoyu turned around and glared at him. "Why are you following me?" Chu Fang couldn't take it anymore. He said coldly, "Miss Xiaoyu, you might have made a mistake. Junior sister Yun and I are from the same sect, so you are the outsider. I should be the one asking you this question. Why do you always follow junior sister Yun? Is there no one else on your flying flower island?" Xiaoyu choked on Chu Fang's words. She had already been in a state of collapse these past few days, but after he said this, she felt even more pitiful. Her eyes immediately reddened as she covered her mouth and ran back to the inn. Chapter 4174. Chu Fang was somewhat embarrassed. Although this Xiaoyu was very annoying, as a man bullying a girl didn't seem too good. Yun Chujio acted as if she didn't see this small interlude and continued to walk forward. Chu Fang felt uneasy for a while and threw this matter to the back of his mind. In the end, more than 10 days ago, this Xiaoyu was still his and junior sister Yun's enemy. Although they had temporarily reconciled, they weren't friends, were they? He eagerly went to Yun Chujio's side and asked, "Junior Marshal Sister Yun, you won't be strolling on the city wall today, right?" Once the protective array was broken through, that place would be the easiest to be attacked. Moreover, the temporary protective array couldn't extend to that place, so it was better not to go. Yun Chujio said indifferently, "Don't worry. Although this protective array has begun to tremble, it can still hold on for a few days." Chu Fang had yet to speak when he heard Xiao Yu's cold snort from behind him. "A grown man is so timid. How embarrassing. If you are afraid, just don't follow." Chu Fang was dumbfounded. Wasn't she crying from his anger? Why did she follow again? Xiao Yu did not even look at Chu Fang as he took 2 quick steps to the front. From an outsider's perspective, it looked like Yun Chujio and Chu Fang were following her. Chu Fang curled his lips and lied to himself. However, as a man, he naturally would not bicker with a temperamental woman. She could say whatever she wanted to say. In the next few days, Yun Chujio and the other two spent the rest of their time on the city wall, except at night. Island Master Qi, Elder Duanmu, and the others were not in the mood to care about them and allowed them to do whatever they wanted. At this moment, the protective shield of the ghost city was trembling even more violently, as if it would be cut by the wind blades at any moment. The entire ghost city was immersed in fear. It was not that they had not thought of building a few more temporary protective arrays, but building such a huge protective array required a lot of materials. The materials provided by the ghost city of Tao Tai were only enough to build one protective array. On this day, Yun Chujio and the other two had just come down from the city wall when they saw Tower Master Luochen. Tower Master Luochen didn't bring any attendants with him. His voice carried a trace of urgency. "Little Jiu, I have something to say to you." Even though Xiao Yu had already given up on Tower Master Luochen, she had been thinking about him for so long after all. Her eyes were red as she ran away. Yun Chujio glanced at Tower Master Luochen. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested and I don't have time to listen. I still have to go back for dinner." Tower Master Luochen glanced at Chu Fang, and a huge pressure instantly enveloped Chu Fang. Chu Fang's face instantly turned pale. Yun Chujio took a deep breath. "Okay, I can listen to what you have to say. Activate the isolation array. This way, senior brother Chu won't be afraid of hearing it." Tower Master Luochen immediately withdrew his pressure. He took out the isolation array plate and activated it. He said anxiously, "Little Gio, this ghost city's protective array can't last much longer. Where is that D. Biming who keeps saying that he's good to you? He's not worth your life. I'm different from him. Even if the protective array is destroyed, he'll do my best to protect you. He'll even sacrifice my life to send you away." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "What are your conditions?" Tower Master Luochen looked hurt. "Little Gio, what are you saying? It's already so late and you still don't believe me? In my heart, you are more important than my life. Why would I make any conditions for you?" Chapter 4175. What if he dies? Yun Chujio laughed sarcastically. "Alright, since you're so self-sacrificing, I'm naturally willing. Then I'll wait for the time when you risk your life to save me." Tower Master Luchen's expression froze. He never expected Yun Chujio to react like this. Seeing that he didn't speak, Yun Chujio continued, "You finished your business. Can you remove the isolation array? I'm still in a hurry to go back for dinner. Tower Master Luochen tightened his hands in his sleeves and said with a dry voice, Little Jiu, D-Biming hasn't been able to accompany and protect you. Don't you have any complaints? Yun Chujio smiled faintly. Haven't you heard that saying? If the two of us were to be together for a long time, we wouldn't be together day and night. Although we aren't together, our hearts are together. Besides, I'm not a child. I don't need to be accompanied and protected by others. I can handle it myself. Tower Master Luchen's eyes became gloomy. What if he dies? Yun Chujio stopped smiling and said coldly, If he dies, I will cut the person who killed him into pieces and make him regret living in this world. Tower Master Luochen was shocked by Yun Chujio's killing intent, but he still asked, What if everyone wants him to die? Yun Chujio's killing intent was even more intense. Everyone? Then just kill them all. What's the point of living with a bunch of brainless people? Tower Master Luochen was shocked by Yun Chujio's even more intense killing intent and took a step back. He slowed down and asked again, Then what? Will you die with him? Yun Chujio looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. Why would I die so suddenly? To live well. To live well for him. To protect the people he wants to protect. To see all the sights and taste all the delicacies for him. No matter what, dying for another person is the stupidest thing to do. Even if you die, it won't change anything. It will also make other people who care about you sad. Tower Master Luochen had never expected to hear such an answer. He thought that since Yun Chujio cared so much about D-Biming, she would naturally follow him in life and death. However, she actually answered like this? Should he say that she was too rational or too heartless? Or should he say that she didn't love D-Biming that much? Thinking of the last answer, Tower Master Luchen's eyes lit up. Little Jiu, the protective array can only last for 2 days at most. You can move to my place. This way I can ensure your safety. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with this self-talking psychopath. She said impatiently, I don't need anyone to protect me. Quickly remove the isolation array. I'm starving. Although Tower Master Luochen really wanted to speak more with Yun Chujio, seeing Yun Chujio's impatient face, he still removed the isolation array. Anyway, she would soon know that what he said was true. For her, he could give up his life. There was no one in this world who loved her more than him. Yun Chujio took a few steps forward, then turned to Lan Luochen and said, Lan Luochen, if you really care about me as much as you say, then please don't provoke me in the future and stay away from me. When Tower Master Luochen heard this, his originally bright eyes suddenly became gloomy. Why couldn't she see his good side? Little Nine, you can't escape. Even if I have to sell my soul and everything, I still want you. Chapter 4176. Gap. On the way back to the inn, Chu Feng didn't dare to ask anything, because he could feel that Yun Chujio was in a bad mood. He was puzzled. What did Tower Master Luochen say that made junior sister Yun so angry? Junior sister Yun had always been a big-hearted person, but now she was so unhappy. He must have said something extraordinary. To be honest, he didn't like Tower Master Luochen very much. Although the people of the northern continent said that he was good, he always felt that Tower Master Luochen had a gloomy aura that made people feel uneasy. After returning to the inn, he didn't see Xiao Yu. She probably hid in her room and cried. Yun Chujio wasn't in the mood to think too much. She hastily ate a few mouthfuls of dinner and returned to her room. The reason why she was in a bad mood wasn't because of Tower Master Luchen's pestering. After all, this scum was a psychopath and she was already used to it. What made her faintly uneasy was Tower Master Luchen's words. What if everyone wants him dead? What did he mean? Yun Chujio recalled that D-Biming had once told her that there was an even more terrifying force behind Lan Luochen. Could it be that their conspiracy was to make everyone become D-Biming's enemy? In the end, he would bear the blame and become everyone's public enemy? No, she would never allow such a situation to happen. Lan Luochen had asked her a question, but there was one thing that she did not say. That was, she would not let her lover die before her. Even if she had to give it her all, she had to protect him. She would kill anyone who dared to touch her. She would kill without mercy. Yun Chujio wondered if this incident had anything to do with the 9 pavilions. After thinking for a while, she rejected the possibility. If it was premeditated, she should have done it earlier. After all, someone had already left the ghost city the night before. Besides, if it was premeditated, Lan Luochen did not need to put himself in danger. He was not a fool. Then, was this sandstorm a natural disaster and not a man-made one? However, no matter what, the most important thing now was to find the core of the ghost city. As long as she found the core, even if it couldn't be restored to its original state, she could at least repair it and hold on for a period of time. However, where was the core of the array? Previously, she had been sitting at the door looking at the sky and strolling along the city wall. Naturally, she wasn't idle. She was observing the subtle differences in the protective shield. The closer she was to the core of the array, the stronger the spiritual power was, and the protective shield was the strongest. In other words, the place that trembled the least was the place that got closer to the eye of the formation. After observing for the past few days, she had some clues, but she still needed to confirm it. Thinking of this, the fellow cursed the black bead. The black bead did not have any other abilities, so it should have some skill in the formation. The small beads that it had swallowed before could break out of the formation, so it was naturally not a problem for it. However, she was unlucky. She did not know if the black bead was dormant or dead, but no matter how she scolded it, it did not have any reaction. If the black bead was awake, with its help, she would not have to run around the city wall like a mill. The next morning, before Yun Chujio woke up, she heard a commotion outside. Oh no! The defensive array at the city gate has been broken. We may not have many days left to live. Let's not talk about this anymore. Everyone, quickly go and help to plug the gap, or else the gap will get bigger and bigger. We are all in the same boat now, hurry up and go. If the defensive array is broken, we won't be able to live anymore. Chapter 4177 was about to make a big deal. Yun Chujio frowned. A gap had already appeared in the protective array? It seemed that she had to hurry up and verify a few places that were suspected to be the core of the array. Just as she was thinking, someone knocked on the door. Xiao Yu's angry voice was heard. Yun Chujio, you are still sleeping? You are really magnanimous. Do you know that there is a hole in the city gate's protective array? Why aren't you following me to help? Yun Chujio pursed her lips. This Xiao Yu was like a dog's skin plaster. Was she sticking to her? She stretched lazily and said slowly, what's the rush? There are so many people anyway. It doesn't matter if I'm one of them. Outside, Xiao Yu was clearly angered by Yun Chujio's words. She said in a slightly exasperated tone, then you can sleep. It's better if you sleep to death. I'll go alone. Then the sound of Xiao Yu stomping down the stairs could be heard from outside. Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders and stretched her back before getting up. Yun Chujio randomly ate a few buns and then walked downstairs. She immediately saw the furious Xiao Yu. Beside her stood Chu Fong, who had a stiff expression. The corners of Yun Chujio's lips curled up. Miss Xiao Yu, didn't you go to the city gates to help? Why are you still here? Xiao Yu did not say a word. She had originally planned to go to the city gates to help, but when she saw Chu Fong sitting downstairs, she choked Chu Fong, resulting in the delay until now. Junior sister Yun, now that everyone has rushed to the city gates, let's go too. Chu Fong simply felt that Xiao Yu was unreasonable, but he did not want to make a big deal out of it, so he could only endure it. Now that Yun Chujio had come down, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Chujio shook her head. Our spirit energy is low, so let's not create trouble. Let's go and make a big matter. Xiao Yu sneered at the side. Big matter? What matter can be more important than blocking a gap? Could it be that you're going to look for the array core? Yun Chujio snapped her fingers. You're finally smart. That's right, let's go look for the array core of the Ghost City's protective array. Xiao Yu and Chu Fong were both shocked and exclaimed in a rare tacit understanding, look for the array core? One had to know that the Taotai Ghost City and those array masters were only 3 feet away from digging the entire Ghost City, yet they still couldn't find the array core. She said she was going to look for the array core? Did she think that the array core was that easy to find? Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with them and walked around them out of the inn. Chu Fong and Xiao Yu quickly followed. Chu Fong asked suspiciously, Junior sister Yun, are you serious? Are you really going to look for the array core? Do you know where the array core is? Xiao Yu pursed her lips. She felt that Yun Chujio was most likely having a stroke. She was not an array master, so how could she find the array core? Yun Chujio said slowly, although I'm not 100% confident, I still have some confidence. Otherwise, do you think I have nothing better to do than to stroll on the city wall for so many days? Chu Fong and Xiao Yu stopped in their tracks. Could it be that she was not strolling on the city wall for nothing but to look for the array core? The two of them were still skeptical, but they did not say anything else. They followed behind Yun Chujio and made a few turns until they reached the Ghost City of Taotai. As the Ghost City of Taotai had already ended, there were only a few ghost guards patrolling here and it was not open. When the ghost guards on patrol saw Yun Chujio and the other two, they immediately came over to stop them. Yun Chujio smiled faintly at them. I'm here to look for the array core. Let us go in and have a look. Those ghost guards were stunned at first, then she said, Miss, don't joke anymore. How can the array core be in the ghost city of Tao Tai? If there's an array core here, the array masters who came here wouldn't be able to find it. You'd better go back. Chapter 4178 Boarded the pirate ship. Xiao Yu rolled her eyes and sneered. Yun Chujio, did you hear that? You're simply daydreaming. If the array's core was inside the ghost city of Tao Tai, wouldn't the array masters coming and going here be able to notice it? You're just trying to slack off. Although Chu Feng didn't say anything, he clearly agreed with Xiao Yu's point of view. He felt that Yun Chujio had most likely gone crazy again. Yun Chujio was not angry and said to the ghost guards, there is already a gap in the city gate. Even if we can temporarily use manpower to block it, we won't be able to hold on for long. Once the protective array is broken, we can only wait for death. I'm just going in to check. If we succeed, we will all be saved. Even if we can't find it, there won't be any losses, right? If you're worried, you can send 2 people to follow us. Are you afraid that the 3 of us will cause any trouble? Although those ghost messengers hesitated, they still refused in the end. Miss, if you want to enter the ghost city of Tao Tai, please go to the city lord to get the token. Otherwise we won't let you in. It's our duty, please forgive us. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. Alright, then we'll go to the city lord now. After saying that, Yun Chujio left with Chu Feng and Xiao Yu. However, when they turned into a small alley, Yun Chujio said to the 2 of them, if I go to the city lord, even if I get permission in the end, it will waste a lot of time, so we'll restrain those ghost guards later and force our way in. Xiao Yu and Chu Feng simply felt that Yun Chujio was talking in her sleep. Force their way in? Putting aside whether this action was safe or not, the main thing was that the ghost messengers had 6 people. There were only 3 of them, so how could they restrain them? Moreover, once there was a slight disturbance, they would send a message to their other companions, and at that time, it would be even more impossible to succeed. Xiao Yu sneered, if you want to die, go by yourself. Don't drag me along. Yun Chujio looked at her with a faint smile. Xiao Yu, it's up to you whether you want to go or not. In any case, I will drag you along with me in the end. You know my ability to lie through my teeth. Xiao Yu was so angry that she was about to explode. However, she heard Yun Chujio say faintly, Xiao Yu, don't you want to be the hero that everyone praises? Don't you want that scum Lan Luochen to think that he has underestimated you? Don't you want Island Master Qi to be proud of you? Yun Chujio's words clearly hit Xiao Yu's heart. She was silent for a moment before she gritted her teeth and asked, what are your chances of finding the array core? 80%, Yun Chujio said with certainty. Xiao Yu stomped her feet. Alright, I'll listen to you this time. It's fine if you can find the array core, but if you can't, HMPH. Yun Chujio said with a smile, since all of you have agreed, then let's discuss our countermeasures. Chu Feng, wasn't he a human? Why didn't he ask for his opinion? However, he was only thinking about it. He knew that since he was already on Yun Chujio's boat, it was impossible for him to get off. A moment later, Xiao Yu gritted her teeth and left the alley, but she quickly pretended to be like a pear blossom in the rain. She cried while shouting, brothers, quickly help me. My junior sister and senior brother suddenly vomited blood and fell to the ground. Quickly help me see what's going on. The few patrolling ghost guards saw that Xiao Yu was crying miserably, and when they heard what she said, they did not suspect him and 2 people ran over. Miss, don't be anxious. Bring us over to take a look. Xiao Yu nodded while crying and then brought the 2 into the alley. Chapter 4179 to 80%. A moment later, the 2 ghost guards were knocked unconscious. Yun Chujio was afraid that they would not faint completely, so she fed each of them a sleeping pill. Yun Chujio dragged the 2 to the side and motioned Xiao Yu to continue fishing. After the 6 people were knocked unconscious, Yun Chujio took off the identity jade token from their waists and covered the 6 people's bodies with sundries. She said to Xiao Yu, you are still useful. Continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you. Xiao Yu was furious. When had she ever done such a shameful thing? It was fine if she found the array's core, but if she couldn't find her, she would definitely find this Yun Chujio to settle the score. Yun Chujio waved her claws with a smile. Let's go. Let's go stir up trouble. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu did not have any confidence, but they had no choice. Since they had already started, they could only grit their teeth and follow. The three of them arrived at the entrance of the ghost city of Tao Tai. They used the jade token of the ghost messenger to open the door and sneakily walked in. The ghost city of Tao Tai was divided into two parts. One part was the auction house and the other part was the backstage. Yun Chujio was not sure where the array core was, so she could only let out the little black rat and a group of rabbits to dig a hole. The little black rat and the few rabbits were not joking when they dug a hole. In a short while, the ghost city of Tao Tai was filled with holes of all sizes. Xiao Yu and Chu Fong were dumbfounded. Putting aside the weird-looking rabbits, you had turned the ghost city of Tao Tai into a mess. It would be great if you could find the array core, but if you couldn't find it, why wouldn't the ghost city of Tao Tai seek you out? Yun Chujio glanced at them. What are you still standing there for? I brought you here to watch the show? Dig for me? The two of them felt as though their hearts had gone crazy. They had never heard of any array master digging for the array core. Xiao Yu looked at the mess and gritted her teeth. Yun Chujio, tell me the truth. Are you really confident? Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. I'm really not confident. I just feel that there might be an array I hear. Xiao Yu was furious. Didn't you say that you were 80% confident? Your comprehension ability is too poor. What I mean is 80%, which means it's possible, roughly. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Xiao Yu was so angry that her head was buzzing. Just as she was about to say something, footsteps came from outside. The three of them were stunned. This was bad. The first to rush in were the 6 ghost messengers who had been beaten black and blue. There were also quite a number of ghost messengers behind them. It's the 3 of them. As expected, they are here to cause trouble. How preposterous. One of the ghost messengers who had been beaten said while gnashing his teeth. The other ghost messengers were also furious when they saw the mess and were about to make a move. Yun Chujio shouted sternly, "Stop. If you don't want to die, just stay there obediently." Xiao Yu and Chu Fong were speechless. At this time, you still dare to threaten them? They were clearly the meat on the chopping block. Those ghost guards were stunned at first and then sneered, "Are you crazy? You still dare to threaten us now? Go, capture the 3 of them and send them to the city lord for punishment." Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. She had to stall for time now because in another 2 hours Xiao Hei and the others would be able to explore the entire ghost city of Tao Tai. No matter what, she could not give up halfway. It was not that she had never thought of going to the city lord openly, but who could believe her words? Even if she agreed in the end, it would waste a lot of time. Therefore, she had to take advantage of the time when everyone was going to the city gate to come and check. A moment later, the 2 ghost guards were knocked unconscious. Yun Chujio was afraid that they would not faint completely, so she fed each of them a sleeping pill. Yun Chujio dragged the 2 to the side and motioned Xiao Yu to continue fishing. After the 6 people were knocked unconscious, Yun Chujio took off the identity jade token from their waists and covered the 6 people's bodies with sundries. She said to Xiao Yu, "You are still useful. Continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you." Xiao Yu was furious. When had she ever done such a shameful thing? It was fine if she found the array's core, but if she couldn't find her, she would definitely find this Yun Chujio to settle the score. Yun Chujio waved her claws with a smile. Let's go. Let's go stir up trouble." Chu Fong and Xiao Yu did not have any confidence, but they had no choice. Since they had already started, they could only grit their teeth and follow. The 3 of them arrived at the entrance of the ghost city of Tao Tai. They used the jade token of the ghost messenger to open the door and sneakily walked in. The ghost city of Tao Tai was divided into 2 parts. One part was the auction house and the other part was the backstage. Yun Chujio was not sure where the array core was, so she could only let out the little black rat and a group of rabbits to dig a hole. The little black rat and the few rabbits were not joking when they dug a hole. In a short while, the ghost city of Tao Tai was filled with holes of all sizes. Xiao Yu and Chu Fong were dumbfounded. Putting aside the weird-looking rabbits, you had turned the ghost city of Tao Tai into a mess. It would be great if you could find the array core, but if you couldn't find it, why wouldn't the ghost city of Tao Tai seek you out? Yun Chujio glanced at them. What are you still standing there for? I brought you here to watch the show? Dig for me? The 2 of them felt as though their hearts had gone crazy. They had never heard of any array master digging for the array core. Xiao Yu looked at the mess and gritted her teeth. Yun Chujio, tell me the truth. Are you really confident? Please visit Pan 1. Ko. Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. I'm really not confident. I just feel that there might be an array I hear. Xiao Yu was furious. Didn't you say that you were 80% confident? Your comprehension ability is too poor. What I mean is 80%, which means it's possible, roughly. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Xiao Yu was so angry that her head was buzzing. Just as she was about to say something, footsteps came from outside. The three of them were stunned. This was bad. The first to rush in were the 6 ghost messengers who had been beaten black and blue. There were also quite a number of ghost messengers behind them. It's the 3 of them. As expected, they are here to cause trouble. How preposterous. One of the ghost messengers who had been beaten said while gnashing his teeth. The other ghost messengers were also furious when they saw the mess and were about to make a move. Yun Chujio shouted sternly, "Stop. If you don't want to die, just stay there obediently." Xiao Yu and Chu Fang were speechless. At this time you still dare to threaten them? They were clearly the meat on the chopping block. Pialpha Dialphanung Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. She had to stall for time now because in another 2 hours Xiao Hei and the others would be able to explore the entire ghost city of Tao Tai. No matter what, she could not give up halfway. It was not that she had never thought of going to the city lord openly, but who could believe her words? Even if she agreed in the end, it would waste a lot of time. Therefore, she had to take advantage of the time when everyone was going to the city gate to come and check. Chapter 4180. The miserable Xiao Yu. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed, and in the next moment the large kitchen knife in her hand was pressed on Xiao Yu's neck. Xiao Yu, Chu Fang, those ghosts? Yun Chujio exerted a little more force and a wound appeared on Xiao Yu's fair neck and fresh blood flowed down. Xiao Yu cursed in pain. Yun Chujio, are you crazy? Yun Chujio revealed an extremely sinister smile. Of course I'm not crazy. I brought you along just to make you a hostage. After all, you are Island Master Chi's beloved disciple. If anything happens to you, Tiske, I believe it will be very fun. Chu Fang was dumbfounded. Was his brain not enough, or was junior sister Yin really crazy? Or was she acting? But there was no need to really cut Xiao Yu's neck to make it bleed, right? At first, those ghost messengers also thought that Yun Chujio was acting, but when they saw the wound on Xiao Yu's neck, they immediately did not dare to act rashly. The previous 6 ghost messengers did not know Xiao Yu, but some of the later ghost messengers had seen Xiao Yu. If Xiao Yu really had a mishap with Island Master Chi's love for her, they would not be able to recover. There was a special array in the ghost city of Tao Tai that allowed ghost messengers to use their identity jade tokens to send messages, but there was no way to use talismans in the ghost city, so they could only send people to send messages. A small leader of ghost messengers was about to send someone to send a message when he heard Yun Chujio say sinisterly, "If you dare to send a message, I will kill her." The small leader hurriedly said, "If we don't deliver the message, don't act recklessly. If you hurt Miss Xiao Yu, you won't live either." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "As long as you obediently cooperate with me, I will naturally not kill her. But if you dare to act rashly, we will perish together. In any case, this ghost city will break down sooner or later. Sooner or later, it doesn't matter." As Yun Chujio spoke, she cut Xiao Yu's neck again. Xiao Yu felt that she was completely stupid. These few days she actually thought that Yun Chujio wasn't that annoying, but in the end, she was a temperamental devil. She was a lunatic. Chu Fang saw that the blood flowing from Xiao Yu's neck had dyed her collar red, and he couldn't help but feel a little unbearable. However, when he saw Yun Chujio's cold gaze, he didn't dare to speak. When the ghost Aaron's little leader saw this, he was afraid that Yun Chujio would really kill him, so he hurriedly said, well cooperate completely. What do you want us to do? Dig a hole. Dig a hole for me. If anyone is lazy, I'll kill her." Yun Chujio threw them a pile of pickaxes. Chu Fang's expression stiffened. It was over, this junior sister Yun of his was completely crazy. Also, did she run a grocery store? There were actually so many pickaxes. Those ghost guards were also dumbfounded, but they did not dare to disobey. Each of them picked up a pickaxe and began to dig a hole. Yun Chujio was holding Xiao Yu to supervise the workers, so Chu Fang could only bitterly act as an accomplice. Midway, Xiao Yu wanted to speak, but Yun Chujio said darkly, "If you want to die, then speak. Otherwise, pretend to be mute." Xiao Yu felt this hatred in her heart, but she did not dare to resist, so she could only kill Yun Chujio a few hundred times in her heart. After digging for a while, a ghost took the opportunity to slip away to report the news. Although Yun Chujio saw it, she did not stop it, because even if she had Xiao Yu as a hostage, it was impossible for her to control all the ghost guards. In any case, she was almost done digging, so it was fine to deliver the letter. Chapter 4181. She was tearing down the ghost city of Tao Tai at this moment. Everyone had already piled up a lot of wood, sandbags and other items at the city gate of the ghost city. Although they couldn't completely block the hole in the array formation, they could at least hold it off for a while. Just when everyone was slightly relieved, a ghost messenger ran over, rolling and crawling. City Lord, this is bad. The nameless sword sect's Yunchujio is tearing down our ghost city of Tao Tai. The city lord of Ghost City, manager's son, couldn't believe his ears. What was this? He knew about Yunchujio. Although the ghost city of Tao Tai had always claimed that they didn't know the identity of their guests, how could they really not know? Therefore he knew that the person who had made the deal with him was Yunchujio. He felt that this Yunchujio was simply a shrewd person. But now she was tearing down the ghost city of Tao Tai? Was she crazy? The other manager immediately became anxious and reprimanded. Won't you stop her? She kidnapped Miss Xiao Yu from the Flying Flower Island, so we don't dare to stop her. She even ordered everyone to help her tear down the ghost city of Tao Tai. Now many holes have been dug in the ghost city of Tao Tai. She said that she was looking for the protective array core of the ghost city, the messenger ghost said in a trembling voice. Island Master Qi of the Flying Flower Island was watching the show from the side. When he heard that Xiao Yu was being held hostage, he immediately became anxious. He said angrily to Elder Duanmu, "What does your nameless sword sect mean? If anything happens to Xiao Yu, I won't let you off." Elder Duanmu and the other two looked at each other. They were also dumbfounded. Okay? Didn't Yunchujio and Xiao Yu turn their hostility into amicable friendship a few days ago? Why did this happen again? No one had the time to ask. Other than the people guarding the city gate, everyone else had arrived at the ghost city of Tao Tai. Manager Sun and the others were so angry when they saw the large and small holes on the ground and the items lying around. Although the situation was urgent now, they had not given up completely. If the ghost city could be preserved, the ghost city of Tao Tai would naturally continue to operate. Now it had been demolished. How could there not be anger? Island Master Qi was not concerned about these things. He was concerned about Xiao Yu, but when he saw the situation in front of him, he was stunned. Wasn't it said that Yunchujio had kidnapped Xiao Yu? But why did he see Xiao Yu standing perfectly fine beside Yunchujio? Although there were a few strips of cloth tied around her neck, she seemed to be fine. However, Elder Duanmu heaved a sigh of relief. He could just tear down the ghost city of Tao Tai and compensate her, but if he really held Xiao Yu hostage, Island Master Qi would probably not be kind to him. Manager Sun was so angry that he was trembling. He took a deep breath and said, "Miss Yun, what are you trying to do?" Yunchujio said with a straight face, "I'm looking for the core of the ghost city's protective array. You won't feel sorry for the facilities of the ghost city of Tao Tai, right? After all, compared to everyone's lives, these worldly possessions are not worth mentioning." Manager Sun was so angry that he almost vomited blood. What she said was light, not worth mentioning. The ghost city of Tao Tai was the painstaking work of generations of them. However, under the watchful eyes of everyone, he could not deny it, so he could only say, "Miss Yun, if we can find the array core, this ghost city of Tao Tai is naturally nothing. But you are not an array master, so how did you know that there is an array core here? Let's get straight to the point. If you can't find the formation core, then you must compensate us in full for our losses. Otherwise we will definitely seek justice from you." Yunchujio smiled slightly. "Of course. If you can't find the formation core, then our nameless sword sect and Flying Flower Island will compensate you for the losses." Chapter 4182. Are you toying with me? As soon as Yunchujio finished her sentence, Xiao Yu, who was beside her, nearly fainted from anger. It was one thing for her to act as a honey trap, but she had been taken as a hostage just now and nearly had her neck cut off. Now she had made Flying Flower Island take the blame with her. How shameless. She recalled what had happened 15 minutes ago and was so angry that she was trembling. After the messenger ghost left, Yunchujio said to her with a smile, "Xiao Yu, little beauty, I was just acting. If I didn't do this, they would definitely make things difficult for us, so we can only let you suffer." Before Xiao Yu could say anything, Yunchujio continued, "We are now in the same boat. If you fall out with me, you won't get any benefits. Anyway, you're not dead and Island Master Qi can't do anything to me. So, why don't you cooperate with me obediently? If you find the eye of the array like this, you'll be able to amaze everyone. Besides, it's quite embarrassing to be threatened by a good-for-nothing like me, right? You don't want everyone to know, right?" After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she pretended to help Xiao Yu apply medicine and bandage. She even advised, "Don't be angry. If you're angry you might leave a scar. It wouldn't be pretty if a scar were to be left on your beautiful neck. Senior brother Chu, don't you think so?" Chu Fong. He didn't hear anything. He didn't want to talk now. Therefore, when Manager Sun and the others came, they saw the scene from before. Manager Sun saw that Yun Chujio promised to compensate for the loss if they couldn't find the array core, so his expression eased up a little. He knew that Yun Chujio was rich, so he wasn't afraid that she would go back on her word. After all, a monk couldn't run away from the temple. However, many array masters began to ridicule him. Today is really an eye-opener. This is the first time I know that you can find the formation core by digging a hole. If you can find the formation core by digging a hole, why don't we just dig through the ghost city? That's really stupid. She might not know that the formation core of every grand array has some kind of concealment. It's impossible to see the formation core with the naked eye. If she can find the formation core, that would really be a ghost. Hearing their words, Yun Chujio curled her lips slightly. Of course, she knew that some array cores were covered, but no matter how they were covered, the smell of spirit stones and array leaves could not escape Xiao Hei's nose. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to be close enough. That was why she asked the rabbits and ghost hunters to help dig the holes. That way it would be easier for Xiao Hei to find the array cores. Time passed bit by bit. Yun Chujio was still standing there calmly and did not say anything. Everyone started to get anxious. The glimmer of hope they had was completely destroyed. How could a little girl who did not know anything about arrays find the array core? Manager Sun said with a slight coldness, "Miss Yun, it seems that you can't find the array core. Then should we talk about compensation?" Yun Chujio smiled. "Who said I can't find the core of the array? Follow me." Yun Chujio's words were like thunder. Everyone was shocked. Although they were skeptical, they were still excited and followed Yun Chujio inside. However, when Manager Sun saw Yun Chujio pointing there, he was so angry that his nose almost went crooked. "Miss Yun, are you kidding me? There is indeed a core of the array here, but it is the core of the Taotai Ghost City." Inside the Taotai Ghost City, there was not only a communication array but also a protective array for the auction stage. Yun Chujio was pointing at the core of the array. Chapter 4183 could no longer be dug out. Those formation masters immediately burst out laughing. "This is hilarious. Does this Yun Chujio think that she can find the core of the Ghost City's defense formation just by digging a few holes? That's right, this is simply hilarious. So many of us have yet to find it, and she thinks that she can find it just by digging a few holes? She's really naive. That's nothing. She's still digging in secret. Could it be that she's afraid of others snatching her credit? The Nameless Sword Sect and Flying Flower Island are also famous sects, so how did they produce such three brainless disciples? Whether it was Island Master Qi, Elder Duanmu, or the others, they could not keep up appearances, but they could not say anything in public. They could only wait for the matter to be settled and shut their doors before dealing with their own disciples. Xiao Yu and Chu Fang were already numb. They had already prepared for the worst. They had no choice. Who asked them to board the pirate ship? They deserved it. Only Yun Chujio had a calm expression as she kept Xiao Hei, Rat, and the other rabbits into her spirit beast bag. Then she said to the few ghost guards, "Dig, the array core is right below." Manager Sun couldn't bear it any longer. It was fine if they dug up those places previously, but once the array core was destroyed, they would have to spend a lot of manpower and material resources to repair it. How could they allow Yun Chujio to continue digging? "Stop. Miss Yun, I have already said that this is the array core of the ghost city of Taotai, not the protective array core of the ghost city. If you dig this place open, we will have to spend a lot of effort to repair it, so you cannot continue digging. If there isn't the array core of the ghost city's protective array down there, I will compensate you with double the spirit stones. Anyway, there are already array masters here. When the time comes, you can hire them to repair it for you." Yun Chujio said lightly. Manager Sun couldn't help but be tempted when he heard the double compensation. He thought that if he kept stopping them, some people might think that he was narrow-minded. Therefore he sneered and said, "Well, since Miss Yun is so straightforward, then you guys can dig." Those ghost guards received the order and dug down. Soon everyone saw a big array disc. Those array masters curled their lips. This was indeed the array disc of the ghost city of Taotai. She should give up now, right? They did not expect Yun Chujio to instruct those ghost messengers to dismantle the array disc and move it away, continuing to dig down. Although Manager Sun felt sorry for the dismantled array disc, He did not stop those ghost messengers when he thought of the double compensation promised by Yun Chujio. Those ghost messengers dug another person up high, but they did not dig out anything other than sand. The onlookers shook their heads. This Yun Chujio was really a demon. There was clearly nothing down there. She just had to wait for the double compensation. Xiao Yu's heart was like a beeping dog. She had suffered so much and in the end it was all for naught? She was disappointed and angry. If eyesight could kill, Yun Chujio would probably be a sieve by now. At this moment, a ghost messenger cried out in surprise, "I can't dig any more. I seem to have encountered some obstruction." Everyone looked at the bottom of the pit and saw that the ghost messenger's pickaxe seemed to be blocked by an invisible barrier. There was no way to continue digging. Then the other ghost errand boys also encountered the same problem and encountered obstacles. The scene was dead silent and then exploded. What did the obstacles mean? It meant that there was a barrier. What did the barrier mean? It meant that there must be something hidden inside. Could it really be the core of the ghost city's defensive formation? Immediately, the few array masters who mocked Yun Chujio did not care about the pain on their faces. They jumped into the deep pit and began to study the barriers. Yun Chujio hugged her shoulders and watched. She could not help with the rest of the things. After all, she was not an array master. Chapter 4184 Repairing Formation Leaves 4 hours later, the formation masters worked together and finally opened the barrier. What appeared in front of everyone was a huge formation disc. The huge formation leaves were covered with dense ancient runes. In the middle was a huge groove filled with 6-star dark spirit stones. Everyone also discovered that some of the formation leaves were already starting to crack. If they didn't repair it, they probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Those array masters looked at the array disc for a long time, and all of them frowned. This array disc is a bit special. It doesn't seem to be as simple as a protective array. Yeah, it does indeed seem a bit strange. Moreover, there are ancient runes on it. We can only recognize a few of them at most. For now, we can only strengthen those array leaves first. Hopefully it will be effective. Island Master Chi and the others did not come up with any ideas. They could only agree with the formation masters and temporarily use special materials to reinforce the cracked formation leaves to see if there was any effect. To everyone's surprise, after reinforcing those formation leaves, the ghost city's protective barrier did not tremble as much as before. Moreover, the original gap in the city gate had been repaired. Everyone finally let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, they had bought some time. Of course, because they had really found the array core, Manager Sun and the array masters felt their faces hurt. Fortunately, Yun Chujio did not say anything. Manager Sun asked Yun Chujio about the process of finding the array core. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "I had been circling on the city wall and found that the protective barrier here in the ghost city of Tao Tai was the most stable. So I guessed that this should be where the array core was. It was just a coincidence." Only then did everyone remember that Yun Chujio and the other two were indeed circling around the city wall every day. They had even discussed that these three were most likely mentally ill. So they were looking for the array core. Even so, everyone was still skeptical of her words. But no matter what, the result was good. For a time, Yun Chujio became the hero of the ghost city. Along with Xiao Yu and Chu Fong, she also received unanimous praise from everyone. What heroes came from youths, what worthy of being a disciple of a famous sect, and so on. Although Xiao Yu still had some complaints about Yun Chujio cutting her neck, she didn't do anything to Yun Chujio. On this day during lunch, Island Master Chi sighed and said, "I originally thought that I could temporarily alleviate it after discovering the array core, but I didn't expect that those array masters would be helpless. I'm afraid they won't last for more than a few days." Xiao Yu asked in puzzlement, "Master, haven't those array leaves already been reinforced? Why can't they last for more than a few days?" Because Xiao Yu had done a good job for the Flying Flower Island this time, Island Master Chi now doted on her even more. He patiently explained, "Strengthening the array leaves is only a temporary measure. If those array leaves break again, it's useless to reinforce them." Yun Chujio, who was gnawing on a bone, muttered, "Then draw a few more array leaves according to the original ones. Although they can't be compared to the original ones, they can at least last for a period of time." Island Master Chi was not so kind to her. He snorted coldly and said, "What you said is simple. Do you think those array masters didn't think of this?" However, the ancient runes on the array leaves were very complicated. Moreover, when drawing them they had to be done in one go. They couldn't stop in the middle, so they failed every time they tried. They even invited some talisman masters to help, but none of them could draw a complete array leaf. Even these array masters and talisman masters were unable to draw, so there was nothing anyone could do. Chapter 4185. He'll give it a try. After hearing Island Master Chi's words, Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She just gnawed on the bones and became happier and happier. Island Master Chi didn't expect Yun Chujio to have any solutions, so he snorted and didn't say anything else. On the contrary, the others were talking about it. They were worried that once the array leaves broke, their lives would be in danger. Other than Yun Chujio, almost everyone on the table put down their chopsticks. Xiao Yu glared at her and wanted to say something, but she swallowed it back. If it weren't for this foodie, they probably wouldn't have lived until now. Yun Chujio chewed on a few more bones and then sipped on a bowl of soup. Only then did she put down the bowl and chopsticks in satisfaction. I say, is that array leaf really that difficult? Isn't it just drawing from the gourd? I'll give it a try. I like drawing the most, the fellow said while strolling. When everyone heard her words, they nearly died from anger. Could drawing an array leaf be the same as drawing a painting? Moreover, there were incomparably complicated ancient runes on it. If it was someone who didn't have deep attainments in talismans and arrays, not to mention finishing it in one go, even if you were to casually draw from it, you wouldn't be able to draw it. Island Master Chi sneered and said, Yun Chujio, although you did make a great contribution by finding the eye of the array, it was just a fluke. Don't be too arrogant. Think about your own weight before you speak. Otherwise you'll be laughed at by others. Although Elder Duanmu and Elder Dongfang also felt that Yun Chujio's words were inappropriate, they were disciples of the Nameless Sword sect. It wasn't their place for an outsider to reprimand them. Therefore their expressions became unsightly. Elder Duanmu was about to speak, however, he heard Yun Chujio say with a smile, Island Master Chi, thank you for your reminder. However, I am confident and thick-skinned. Therefore, I will take your words as encouragement. Senior Brother Chu Xiaoyea, let's go and take a look at the eye of the formation. Island Master Chi, how could Yun Chujio be so thick-skinned? When did his precious disciple become Xiaoyea? Xiaoyu was also very confused. Okay? What the hell was Xiaoyea? But she hesitated for a moment and still got up to follow. It was better to follow that trash Yun Chujio than to stay in the inn. The three of them left the King of Hell's residence and slowly wandered toward the ghost city of Tao Tai. There were basically no pedestrians on the road. They either stayed in the house or volunteered to help guard the city. Besides, they didn't have the time to stroll on the street. Junior Sister Yun, are you really going to try drawing array leaves? Have you drawn them before? Chu Fong couldn't help but ask. I haven't drawn array leaves before, but I've drawn talisman seals before. I've even drawn portraits. By the way, Senior Brother Chu, I'll draw one for you one day. I guarantee you'll be satisfied, He Xinjiu said with a smile. The corner of Chu Fang's eyes twitched. The focus now wasn't on drawing portraits, all right? Xiao Yu snorted coldly at the side. Yun Chujio, do you think those array masters will let you draw? You have to know that there are very few large-scale array leaves to begin with. If you waste one, they will not let you waste one. Xiao Yu, don't worry. I will make them agree. Yun Chujio said with a grin. Xiao Yu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Yun Chujio, if you continue to call me Xiao Yu, I will not be polite to you. He Xinjiu touched her chin. If you don't call me, then don't call me. What's the rush? Then I'll call you Yuer in the future. This is nice to hear. Chapter 4186. We are here to help. Xiao Yu naturally would not agree to be called Yuer. She angrily chased Yun Chujio for 2 streets before He Xinjiu said slyly, all right, since you are not willing to be called Xiao Ye and Yuer, then I will call you Little Yuer from now on. Xiao Yu panted heavily as she glared at Yun Chujio. She was puzzled. Her spirit energy was clearly much higher than this trash, so why couldn't she catch up to her? She knew Yun Chujio's character. If she still didn't agree, this fellow might not give her an ugly nickname. Little Moon it is. Yun Chujio saw that Xiao Yu didn't say anything and immediately clapped her hands. Little Moon, Senior Brother Chu, let's go. Little Miss will bring you to show off and bring you to fly. The corners of Xiao Yu and Chu Fang's mouths twitched violently. This person was most likely having a relapse again. She was the youngest among them, so how could she call herself a young miss? Shameless. The three of them chatted and laughed, and soon arrived at the ghost city of Tao Tai. Coincidentally, the ghost guards were the 6 people who were beaten up back then. When they saw Yun Chujio and the others, they could not help but feel a little embarrassed. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "The six of you, what a coincidence. We are really fated. Sorry for offending you previously. Forgive us, forgive us." What could the six ghost messengers say? They also said a few polite words, then they said, "Miss Yun, are you going inside? The city lord has given an order. Without his order, no one except the array master is allowed to enter." Yun Chujio's smile became even brighter. "Six of you, the city lord's order is targeted at ordinary people. The three of us are not ordinary people, so please let us in. Otherwise I will have to cut Little Moon's neck a few more times. Won't your heart ache?" The six messengers were stunned at first, but then they realized that Yun Chujio was threatening them. After what happened last time, they finally knew that this person was a person who kept her word and was fearless. They didn't let her in. She might really do it. Thus, the six of them looked at each other. She was the one who had discovered the array core anyway, and there were other array masters inside. They were not afraid of her causing trouble, so they just went in. After the two ghost guards opened the door, Yun Chujio and the other two walked in. Xiao Yu said angrily, "Yun Chujio, if you dare to take me as a hostage again, I'll kill you." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "I'm just teasing them. You're my little moon. How can I bear to hurt you? If they don't let us in, he'll take senior brother Chu as a hostage. Anyway, he's a man. It's fine even if I cut his face a few times." Chu Fong, what's wrong with a man? Is a man shameless? The three of them quickly arrived at the core of the formation with ease. The three of them jumped to the bottom of the pit and saw the array formation masters either thinking bitterly or practicing on the blank formation leaves with talisman pens. There was also an array formation master who was most likely crazy and was banging his head against the wall. When those array masters saw Yun Chujio and the other two, especially Yun Chujio, they couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The moment they saw this little girl, they felt their faces hurt, burning with pain. One of the array masters asked, "What are you doing here? Did the city lord send you here?" Xiao Yu was about to speak when Yun Chujio interjected. "Yes, I volunteered to help, so the city lord sent us here." The array master who was ramming against the wall snappily said, "Help? Help with what? Could it be that you can draw array leaves?" Yun Chujio nodded. "That's right. I'm here to help draw array leaves." Chapter 4187 finished speaking before leaving after hearing Yun Chujio's words. The formation masters were stunned at first, then their mouths twitched. If they hadn't been slapped in the face by Yun Chujio last time, they would definitely have mocked and ridiculed her. Even so, the formation master who had crashed into the wall couldn't hold it in anymore. "Yun Chujio, do you think that this formation leaf is a joke? Although we don't dare to say that we are the top formation masters in the northern continent, we are still considered influential figures. If we can't even complete it, can you?" "Yes, I am a nobody, but I found the formation core." Yun Chujio's face was full of smiles, but her words poked people's hearts. Those formation masters immediately felt embarrassed. One of the formation masters said, "Since you insist on trying, then try using a few small formation leaves first. There's no need to use too many. If you can draw 1/20th of a rune, I will give you a large formation leaf for you to draw." Yun Chujio immediately nodded in agreement. She took the few small array leaves that the array master handed to her and walked towards the array leaf that was about to break. After observing for a while, she took out a talisman brush and began drawing. The array masters, Xiao Yu and Chu Fong, surrounded Yun Chujio. Although they felt that this fellow was just bragging, they still wanted to see if she knew how to draw. Soon, everyone curled their lips because Yun Chujio had drawn a few array leaves in a row. The runes on them were crooked and they were also intermittent. It was obvious that she was a novice. Without waiting for the crowd to say anything, Yun Chujio sighed. "As expected, drawing like this won't work. Do we really have to do that?" Chu Fong asked in puzzlement. "Junior sister Yun, what do you mean?" Yun Chujio seemed to have just realized what she had said and immediately covered her mouth. What did I say? I didn't say anything. Since I can't draw it, then forget it, let's go back." The array masters were aroused by her words just now, so they wouldn't let her leave. The array master who hit the wall said, "Yun Chujio, what did you mean just now? Do you have another way to successfully draw it?" Yun Chujio's eyes flickered and she looked guilty. "Did I say it? I was just saying it casually. It's getting late, I'm going back to sleep. Move. Everyone was speechless. It was the afternoon, all right? Why was she sleeping? This Yun Chujio must be hiding something. It was a serious matter and she had to say it. Hence, everyone clamored for Yun Chujio to tell the truth, or else she would not be allowed to leave. An elderly array master said earnestly, Miss Yun, this array leaf concerns the safety of the entire ghost city. If you have a way, say it. Everyone will be grateful for your kindness. Yun Chujia's face revealed a hesitant expression, as if she was having an intense battle of thoughts. In the end, she gritted her teeth. She said with a wry smile, "All right, as a member of Towering Sky Continent, I, Yun Chujio, will naturally take the lives of the people as my responsibility. Even if I have to risk my life, I will not hesitate." When Chu Feng heard this, he could not help but reveal a worried expression. "Junior sister Yun, senior brother Chu, you don't have to persuade me. If anything happens to me, you can just pretend that you don't have a junior sister like me." After saying this, Yun Chujia's eyes reddened as tears began to fall. Xiao Yu bit her lips and said, "Yun Chujio, how can you draw any array leaves? Let's go back." As Xiao Yu said that, she wanted to pull Yun Chujia's hand, but she was separated by a few array masters. Someone said, "Miss Xiao Yu, let Miss Yun finish her words first before leaving." Yun Chujia's lowered eyes flashed with a faint light. Did this little girl Xiao Yu not want her to die? Oh yo, this is the discovery of conscience. Chapter 4188, Secret Technique. At this moment, those array masters were already convinced that Yun Chujio had some unknown secret. How could they let her leave, isolating her from Chu Feng and Xiao Yu? Although Chu Feng and Xiao Yu were worried, they were not the array masters' match at all. They could only watch helplessly. Yun Chujio took out a handkerchief to wipe away her tears. She revealed an expression of sacrificing herself for justice and said, "All right, since things have come to this point, I can only speak the truth. You might have also heard that I received the Ancestral Master's advice in our nameless Ancestral Master's cave abode." The array formation masters looked at each other. They had heard of this rumor. However, wasn't it said that this was an illusion caused by eating poisonous mushrooms? Yun Chujio continued, "Not only did the nameless Ancestral Master give me advice on sword techniques, he also told me about the secret method of drawing ancient runes. If you want to draw ancient runes, you have to borrow the power of a 6-star Dark Spirit Stone, but what?" Those array masters asked anxiously. "But the success rate is only 10%. Most importantly, not only will it consume your physical strength and spiritual power, but most importantly, it will also consume your spiritual sense, and even damage your spiritual sense. Who knows, you might even become a fool. Therefore, the Patriarch warned me not to try unless it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you'll regret it too much." Yun Chujio sighed and said. When everyone heard this, they immediately looked at each other. They did have 6-star Dark Spirit Stones, and there were many slots in the formation eye. However, putting aside whether this secret technique was easy to learn, the main reason was that it would damage spiritual sense. Wasn't this too dangerous? At this moment, Yun Chujio said again, "Although this is also our nameless sword sect's top secret, for the sake of everyone's lives, he'll take the liberty to tell you today. The secret technique is, wait. Yun Chujio, this is your nameless sword sect's secret technique. It's better if you don't tell us." "That's right. We all have integrity. How can we learn your nameless sword sect's secret technique?" "That's right. If you want to tell us, you'd better tell the people of your nameless sword sect. Don't tell us or we'll feel guilty." Yun Chujio laughed coldly in her heart. It sounded nice, but wasn't it because she was afraid that after she told them, they would have to use the secret technique to draw the formation leaves, afraid that they would become fools? On the other hand, the elderly formation master sighed and said, "Anyway, this old man doesn't have much time left to live. I can throw away my face or whatever. Miss Yun, tell me the secret technique." "Don't worry, I won't tell a third person about this secret technique." Yun Chujio was stunned. She didn't expect this old man to be so kind-hearted. Not everyone in this world was selfish. There were still good people. However, Yun Chujio shook her head and said, "Old man, it's not that I won't tell you, but you're too old. This secret technique has an age limit." When the elder array master heard this, he couldn't help but shake his head in disappointment, but he didn't say anything. Yun Chujio looked at the others. "Your ages are all right. I've considered what you said before. It's all right. At this time, why are there still sects? Come, I'll tell you the secret art right now." The array master's eyes flickered and he said, My stomach hurts a little. I'll go out for a while. You guys do your thing." My stomach doesn't feel too good either. Wait for me, let's go together." "Well, I can't breathe. Let's go out and get some air." Chapter 4189 was on the boat again in a short while. Those array masters left with all kinds of excuses, leaving only Yun Chujio and the other two and the elderly array master in the pit. Yun Chujio showed a struggling expression, and finally showed a determined expression. Old man, now that things have come to this, I can only take the risk to try. Do you have any giant array leaves? Lend them to me. The elderly array master sighed. Those array masters who thought highly of themselves were not as good as this little girl. Although it sounded nice, it was just that they did not want to damage their spiritual sense. He wanted to persuade Yun Chujio, but seeing her determined attitude, he could only take out 5 giant array leaves and give them to her. He even took out a talisman pen and handed it to her. The grade of your talisman pen is too low. Although this talisman pen is not very good, it is still better than yours. I'll give it to you. Yun Chujio took it after thanking him and said, Old man, other than my companions here, I trust you the most. Can you help me guard outside and not let those people come in to disturb me? The elderly array master nodded and wanted to say something. In the end he just sighed and left. Yun Chujio stretched her neck and saw that he had left. This guy shamelessly jumped onto the disc array and stuffed all the 6-star dark spirit stones in the groove into his storage ring. He even casually threw a few to Xiao Yu and Chu Feng. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu were completely dumbfounded. Where were the array leaves that they had agreed upon? Where was the awe-inspiring righteousness that they had agreed upon? Where was the self-sacrifice that they had agreed upon? Why did it turn into a robbery? Yun Chujio took more than half of the 6-star dark spirit stone in the groove. Her evil claws wanted to take more, but she was afraid that it would affect the operation of the array disc, so she could only pull her hand back painfully. Chu Feng finally regained his senses and said with a trembling voice, Junior sister Yun, what are you doing? Yun Chujio glanced at him. Using a secret technique to draw the array leaf? Are you too stupid? Quickly put away the dark spirit stone. Are you afraid that others won't know that you took the 6-star dark spirit stone? Chu Feng and Xiao Yu subconsciously put away the 6-star dark spirit stones beside their feet into their storage rings. Then they saw Yun Chujio looking at them with a sinister look. Their heads buzzed. It was over. They had boarded the pirate ship again. Yun Chujio lowered her voice and said, All right, we are now in the same boat. This matter will be known by the heavens and the earth. Both of you will know and I will know. All of you will rot until you are in your stomachs. Do you hear me? Chu Feng was about to cry. Even if they did not say anything, the dark spirit stones in the groove had decreased by so much that only a blind person would not be able to discover it. But what about this array leaf? Yun Chujio had a mischievous smile on her face. Don't worry. Didn't I say it just now? There's only a 10% chance of success, so it's normal for it to fail. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu, this fellow was simply full of bad ideas. So all of this was planned by her. It turned out that she wasn't here to draw the array leaf at all, but to take advantage of it. Yun Chujio ignored them and took out a huge array leaf and placed it on the stone platform built by the array masters, then said, Although it's a lie, I still have to draw a few random pictures to make up the numbers. Help me guard the pit. If that old man can't hold it, Senior Marshal Brother Chu, you take Little Moon hostage and don't let those people come down. If they are exposed, we won't be able to recover. Xiao Yu, Chu Feng. Chapter 4190, This is voluntary. Even though Chu Feng and Xiao Yu felt like they were barking dogs in their hearts, they had no choice but to jump onto the pit to help guard it. When Yun Chujio saw them leave, her expression turned solemn. Although she had talent in drawing talismans, these ancient runes had a very high requirement for spirit energy, and it was also very complicated. She did not have much confidence. However, the current situation was urgent, so she could only try her best. She walked to the formation leaf that was about to break and observed it for a while. Then she returned to the front of the stone platform. First, she closed her eyes and focused her mind for a while. Then she picked up the talisman pen that the elderly formation master gave her. She began to draw. As expected, the first formation leaf was drawn to 1/3 of the place. Because of the lack of spiritual power, it failed. Yun Chujio frowned. She looked at her empty dantian and said to Guai Chao and the great void mirror solemnly, Spit out some power of lightning. I need it urgently. Guai Chao and the great void mirror did not oppose her as usual when they saw how serious she was. They began to spit out the power of lightning evenly. Yun Chujio refined the power of lightning that they spat out and picked up the talisman brush again. However, she failed again halfway through the second piece. This time it was not because her spirit energy was lacking, but because the runes were too complicated. Yun Chujio accidentally drew the wrong one, resulting in the entire array leaf being ruined. Yun Chujio took a deep breath. She had to meditate for a while before she had the energy to continue drawing, so she began to meditate cross-legged. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu, who were on top of the deep pit, watched Yun Chujio's actions. Although they couldn't see what she had drawn on the array leaf, it didn't look like she was randomly drawing, but it did look like it. At this moment there was a commotion from outside. It was likely that the elderly array master was blocking the other array masters. Yun Chujio, who was meditating, clearly heard the commotion. She suddenly opened her eyes and said solemnly to Chu Feng and Xiao Yu, "Go over and help. At least buy me an hour." This was the first time Chu Feng and Xiao Yu saw Yun Chujio so serious. They subconsciously walked towards the door. The two of them walked halfway before they realized that their spirit energy could not be compared to those array masters. How could they stall for an hour? Xiao Yu recalled what Yun Chujio said and gritted her teeth. That trash doesn't seem to be joking. Maybe she can really draw it, so we helped her. According to what that trash said, if you hold me hostage even if they don't believe it, it's still possible to drag it out for an hour. Chu Feng was somewhat at a loss. Chapter 4191. Your disciple has been kidnapped again. In particular, those array masters had unintentionally learned from those ghosts that Yun Chujio had not received any instructions from Manager Sun at all and had entered without permission. That little girl was obviously scheming. Could she be lying to them? Therefore, despite the elder array master stopping them, they still charged in. Seeing this, Chu Feng did not have time to think about anything else. He took out his sword and placed it on Xiao Yu's neck. When these array masters saw this, they immediately stopped in their tracks. Although they had heard about Yun Chujio holding Xiao Yu hostage, Xiao Yu's identity was special, so they really did not dare to take the risk. However, they did not notice that Chu Feng's legs were slightly trembling. This was the first time he was so close to a girl, so he could not help but feel a little nervous. Although he had interacted with Yun Chujio quite often in his heart, Yun Chujio was a terrifying black lotus, so he did not have any romantic thoughts. However, Xiao Yu was different. Although she was arrogant and domineering, after interacting with her for the past few days, Chu Feng felt that she was not that annoying. In addition, Xiao Yu's appearance was one of the best in the northern continent, especially now that the two of them were so close to each other. He could even smell the fragrance coming from Xiao Yu's body. It was already good enough to be able to hold a treasured sword. Xiao Yu did not have as many thoughts as Chu Feng. Right now, she only wanted to buy an hour for Yun Chujio. Her heart was also very conflicted. On one hand, she was unwilling to accept that Yun Chujio was stronger than her. On the other hand, she hoped that Yun Chujio could create a miracle. She did not know why, but after interacting with Yun Chujio for the past few days, she felt that although Yun Chujio's mouth was a little harsh, and although she still looked so annoying, she felt that there was a sense of stability by her side. She had really seen a ghost. Those array masters negotiated with Chu Feng, but Chu Feng had no choice. In order to scare those people away, he could only clench his teeth and increase the strength of his hands. A wound instantly appeared on Xiao Yu's neck. Chu Feng only felt his heart tremble, and he nearly threw the treasured sword in his hand onto the ground. He managed to stabilize his mind with great difficulty, and his eyes suddenly turned red as he shouted at those people, "Back off! All of you back off! Or else I'll really kill her. Do you people still know what propriety, justice, and shame are? It was clearly you who didn't want to damage your spiritual sense, and each of you found an excuse to escape one by one. Now you've come back to disturb junior sister Yun's use of a secret technique. Do you still deserve to be human?" Those array masters' faces alternated between green and red, and they couldn't help but feel flustered and exasperated. However, when they saw the wound on Xiao Yu's neck, they didn't dare to take the risk. If they offended Flying Flower Island, even if they could leave Ghost City, it was likely that they would not have an easy time in the future. After a discussion, they decided to let the ghost messengers deliver the letter to Manager Sun and Island Master Qi. They wanted to see if Yun Chujio was really drawing the array leaf or was she up to something. Chu Feng saw that someone was delivering the letter and did not stop them. He estimated the time. This trip would take less than an hour. The elder array master sighed. These people weren't even as good as the three youngsters. They didn't think that if Yun Chujio had evil intentions, she wouldn't have helped them find the core of the array. In the end, they were still selfish. They didn't want to damage the leaves of the array and wanted to learn the secret technique. They were really selfish to the extreme. In the King of Hell's residence, Island Master Chi was talking to Elder Duanmu and the others when he saw a ghost scamper rush in. Island Master Chi, your disciple has been kidnapped again. Please go and take a look. Island Master Chi was stunned for a moment before he stood up. Xiaoyu was kidnapped by Yin Chuzhou again? That ghost messenger shook his head. She wasn't kidnapped by Miss Yin this time. She was kidnapped by young hero Chu Fong of the Nameless Sword sect. Island Master Chi felt as though he was bickering in his heart. What the hell was going on? Pialfra Alpha no One no Hei had discovered that ever since his disciple got together with that little girl, Yun Chuzhou, it was getting more and more troublesome. However, the most important thing now was to see what was going on before dealing with them. Thus, Island Master Chi and the others hurriedly left the King of Hell's abode and met Manager Sun and the others on the way. They did not have time to exchange pleasantries and immediately rushed to the ghost city of Tao Tai. The moment Island Master Chi saw Xiaoyu being held hostage by Chu Fong, especially the bloodstains on Xiaoyu's neck, he was about to explode with anger. If Chu Fong did not still have Xiaoyu in his hands, he would probably have slapped Chu Fong to death on the spot. Chu Fang's legs trembled even more, but he didn't hear Yun Chujia's voice, so he could only grit his teeth and persevere. Elder Gu was afraid that Island Master Chi would make a move, so he berated, "Evil disciple, what are you doing? Hurry up and release Xiaoyu." Chu Fong gritted his teeth and said, "Master, I didn't mean to hurt Xiaoyu. It's mainly because junior sister Yun is using a secret technique to draw the array leaf. She has told us not to let anyone disturb her. We have no choice but to use this method." Xiaoyu also echoed, "That's right. This matter isn't Chu Fang's fault. I was the one who was kidnapped voluntarily. Yun Chuzhou said that if we were disturbed, all our efforts would be wasted. So we have no way to stop those array masters, so we can only do this. Please visit P Alpha Alpha-1. Co. Island Master Chi almost fainted from anger. What kind of bewitching potion did Yun Chuzhou give his disciple? Now she was simply obeying her every word, and she was even willing to be kidnapped to help her stall for time. Was there something wrong with her brain? However, he was afraid that Chu Fong would accidentally hurt Xiaoyu, so he could only say, "We won't go in. Hurry up and bandage the wound. If it leaves a scar, you'll regret it." Chu Fong had long given up on holding Xiaoyu hostage. Upon hearing that, he immediately put away his sword and said somewhat helplessly, I didn't use any strength just now. You don't hurt, right?" Xiaoyu rolled her eyes. "They'll try cutting your neck to see if it hurts." Chu Fong also felt that what he said was rather stupid. His face immediately turned red and he became even more at a loss. Upon seeing this, Island Master Chi immediately understood that Chu Fong was harboring wolf-like ambitions for his own disciple. He became even angrier as he said to Elder Gu, "The three of you, although Xiaoyu is willing, isn't it too much for your Nameless Sword sect's disciples to hold her hostage over and over again?" Elder Gu could not bear to look at his own disciple's stupidity. He laughed and said, "Island Master Chi, there's no need to be angry. After we are out of danger, I will naturally give you an explanation." Island Master Chi snorted coldly. If not for the special circumstances, he would have killed Chu Fong with a slap. He actually coveted his disciple. He was really courting death. Xiaoyu was going to marry Tower Master Luochen. How could a mere successor disciple like him compare to Tower Master Luochen? He really overestimated himself. Manager Sun coughed. "Everyone, should we go in and take a look? At most, we can just quietly take a look at the side of the pit and not disturb her. I believe we won't be able to affect Yun Chujia's drawing of the array leaf." Island Master Chi and the others naturally had no objections. They wanted to see what Yin Chuzhou was up to. Although Chu Fong and Xiaoyu wanted to stop her, they knew that they could not stop her. They could only emphasize repeatedly that they should not go into the pit to disturb Yin Chuzhou. Island Master Chi looked at Xiaoyu in anger. He planned to interrogate her properly when he returned. What did Yun Chuzhou give her to make her so obedient? Soon they reached the edge of the pit. What they saw shocked them. They saw Yun Chuzhou lying on the ground with her face facing the sky. She seemed to have fainted. Elder Duanmu and the others jumped down in a hurry. When they got closer, they saw Yun Chuzhou with her eyes closed. Her face was as pale as paper, and her hair was soaked with sweat. Elder Jiu was about to check Yun Chujia's pulse, but Yun Chuzhou woke up. She looked at Elder Gu and the others in a daze. Then she stood up and pointed at the crowd. Hey, where did the ghost come from? Grand Supreme Elder, hurry up and get out of my way. Everyone was stunned. What was she talking about? The array master who had crashed into the wall exclaimed, "It seems that Yun Chujio has suffered a backlash from the secret technique. She has become a fool." Hei Shinjio, who was possessed by the essence of acting, cursed in her heart. "You are the fucking fool. Your entire family is a fool." However, this fellow was eager for everyone to think that she had lost her mind. She took out a treasured sword and waved it around. "Get out of the way. All of you get out of the way. This place is related to the safety of the ghost city. Whoever comes near me will die." Everyone's faces were dull. Then they saw Yun Chujio pointing the sword at Island Master Qi and saying, You old ghost, why do you look so familiar? Get out of the way. Please visit P-Alpha-1. Ko. MP-Alpha and Alpha no one Ohei was about to say something when he saw Yun Chujio laughing loudly and saying, "Ha! I finally finished drawing the array leaf. The ghost city is safe. Everyone doesn't have to die." Everyone's attention was immediately attracted by this sentence. She had finished drawing the array leaf? Everyone's eyes then fell on the stone platform and the array leaves scattered on the ground. However, some of the array leaves had been drawn to 1/3, some had been drawn to half, and some had even drawn some ghost runes. None of them had been successfully drawn. When the array masters saw the array leaf that had been drawn to half, they could not help but turn pale with fright. The lines and strength of this array leaf were just right, but it was a pity that they had drawn the wrong symbol. Otherwise, they might really have been able to draw it successfully. It seemed that the secret technique that Yun Chujio was talking about was true. Otherwise, there was no way that a little girl like her would not be able to draw it. On one hand, these array masters felt that it was a pity that the secret technique was lost because of Yun Chujio's madness. On the other hand, they felt a little fortunate. If Yun Chujio had not gone mad, they reckoned that everyone would have asked her to tell them the secret technique at that time. They would have no choice but to learn it even if they did not want to. Only the eyes of the elderly array master flashed. He had given Yun Chujio a total of 5 empty giant array leaves. There were only 4 on the ground. The other one had yet to be drawn, or could it be that she had kept it after successfully drawing it? While everyone was in a daze, they saw Yun Chujio roll her eyes and faint on Xiao Yu's body. Xiao Yu was originally a little worried that this fellow had really gone crazy, but when she saw the sinister flash in his eyes, she had an epiphany. Fuck, this trash was acting again. Although Xiao Yu secretly gritted her teeth, she still shouted in panic, "Yun Chujio, are you alright? Why don't I bleed you a little? Maybe you will regain your consciousness." Yun Chujio's eyelids trembled when she heard Xiao Yu's words. The hand under her sleeve pinched Xiao Yu's waist fiercely. Xiao Yu was in so much pain that she nearly cried out. Just as she was about to pinch Yun Chujio's body a few times, Yun Chujio opened her eyes and said weakly, Where is this? Who am I? Who are all of you?" Chu Fang said with a sobbing voice, "Junior sister Yun, I am senior brother Chu. Don't tell me you don't even recognize me?" Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment, then she pressed her hand on her temple and said, "I remember now. I am the country-toppling, city-toppling, and peerless female emperor. My dear ministers, why don't you kneel before me when you see me?" Everyone was dumbfounded. It was over. This little girl had really gone crazy. Just as they were at a loss, Yun Chujio took out a huge array leaf from her storage ring and placed it on the stone platform. "What is this thing? Who put it in my storage ring?" Everyone's attention was immediately attracted by the array leaf. The array master who had slammed into the wall exclaimed, "It's done. It's really done. However, we still need to compare it. There can't be the slightest error." P-Alpha no one know everyone was so anxious that they gritted their teeth, but they couldn't snatch it openly. Manager Sun smiled like a flower and coaxed, "Miss Yun, we are all grateful for your righteousness. The array leaf is of great importance. Please hand it over to us first." Yun Chujio frowned. "What did you say? I don't understand." Elder Duanmu and the other 2 tried to persuade her, but Yun Chujio refused to take out the array leaf no matter what. Some people were anxious and wanted to make a move. "Please visit P-Alpha-1. Ko, M. Chu Fang said angrily, "Do you still have a conscience? Junior sister Yun has gone crazy for the sake of drawing the array leaf, yet you still want to snatch it. You're worse than pigs and dogs." Those people looked a little embarrassed as they defended themselves. We're not trying to hurt Miss Yun, but the array leaf is of great importance. The earlier we change it, the earlier we can rest assured. Elder Gu was afraid that those people would become angry out of embarrassment. He scolded, Chu Feng, don't be rude. Everyone was just saying it, how could they really hurt the little girl? You usually have the best relationship with the little girl. Advise her to hand over the array leaf so that she can return to the inn earlier to find someone to treat her. Chu Feng did not dare to contradict Elder Gu. He could only say to Yun Chujio, Junior sister Yun, hand over the array leaf and senior brother will bring you back to the inn to eat delicious food. Don't you love eating bones the most? Senior brother will ask the inn's people to make a basin of bones for you. Yun Chujio ridiculed in her heart. What did he mean by she loved eating bones the most? She was not a dog. Xiao Yu had long seen through Yun Chujio's little tricks. She stood by the side without saying a word and sneered in her heart. She wanted to see how this scene of hers would continue to play out. Did she think that those people would obediently take out the medicinal pills just because she said so? In her dreams. As expected, other than Elder Duanmu and the other two taking out some medicinal pills and handing them to Yun Chujio, the others did not move. Yun Chujio took the few bottles of pills, she humphed and said, I senior brother Chu, my spiritual sense is in terrible pain now. If I don't have good pills, I'd better not use my spiritual sense now to avoid getting hurt again. Keep these pills in your storage ring first. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard that. They naturally understood the meaning of Yun Chujio's words. It turned out that if they didn't give her the pills, this guy wouldn't take out the formation leaf. After all, even the pills were kept in Chu Fang's storage ring. Manager Sun secretly cursed Yun Chujio for her black heart. She had clearly bought a mysterious heaven pill in the ghost market of Tao Tai, and now she was here to extort pills. However, when he thought about how Yun Chujio had damaged her spiritual sense in order to draw the formation leaf, it wouldn't be too much to take the opportunity to ask for more pills. After all, it would take a long time to restore her spiritual sense. Therefore he took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Yun Chujio. Miss Yun, there is a 3-mark soul condensing pill in here. Although its effect isn't as good as the mysterious heaven pill, its effect isn't bad. After Yun Chujio took it, she said weakly, Thank you, Manager Sunday. You are really a kind and good person, unlike some people who are hard-hearted. Ouch, my head hurts. Island Master Chi and the others' faces were stiff. They naturally knew that Yun Chujio was talking about them. Moreover, judging from her meaning, if they could not get the pill they would not take out the array leaf. Island Master Chi threw a bottle of medicinal pills to Yun Chujio with a cold face. Seeing this, the others couldn't play dumb anymore. They all took out the medicinal pills to heal their spiritual sense or wounds and handed them to Yun Chujio. Please visit P-Alpha-1. Co. and P-Alpha-1. Oh, everyone nearly fell back in anger. Good, very good. This Yun Chujio's skin was even thicker than the city wall. Xiao Yu watched coldly from the side. On one hand she felt that Yun Chujio was too shameless. On the other hand she felt that this shamelessness seemed to have some benefits. Otherwise, with the virtue of those people, it was impossible for them to take out the pills. Hei Xinjiu had almost finished collecting the pills. Only then did she take out the array leaf. She even hummed and said, I traded my life for this. You guys must be careful. Don't break it for me. The array masters couldn't be bothered with her now. They lifted the array leaf to one side and compared it carefully, afraid that there would be the slightest mistake. Hei Xinjiu sat on the ground. Although this guy was acting just now, drawing the array leaf had indeed consumed a lot of her spiritual power and physical strength. The reason why she made such a scene was to divert everyone's attention. Otherwise, the secret technique she mentioned might not be able to withstand the scrutiny. Only then did Chu Feng realize that junior sister Yun was not putting on an act again, right? The array masters repeated the comparison several times before confirming that the array leaf Yun Chujio had drawn was exactly the same as the one that had suffered the most damage. However, they did not immediately change the array leaf because there would be a gap in the protective array for a short period of time when they changed the array leaf. They had to get everyone ready in advance. Chapter 4196. How could there be so few dark spirit stones since it was already night time? Manager Sun and the others decided to use this night to inform everyone to prepare and change the array leaf after daybreak. Just as they finished their discussion, they heard someone exclaim, Oh my God, Why are there so few 6-star dark spirit stones in this groove? After everyone entered, they were only concerned about Yun Chujio and the array leaf. They really did not notice the condition of the groove. At this moment they came near the array plate and looked at the groove. They were all dumbfounded. At least half of the 6-star dark spirit stones in the groove were gone. Who did this? At this moment, Yun Chujio's faint voice came from behind them. Those dark spirit stones were used up when I used the secret technique. Fortunately, God bless me that I succeeded when I drew the 5th piece. Otherwise, the dark spirit stones in the groove would not be enough for me to use. Everyone, they could not say a word at the moment. Yun Chujio's words had silenced them. Saying that she was a waste? She had already said that it was God's blessing that she succeeded in drawing 5 pieces. Although some people felt that there might be something fishy going on, they could not say anything when they saw the array leaf that was successfully drawn. After all, no one had seen her hide the dark spirit stones with their own eyes. Just when everyone was speechless, Yun Chujio said loudly, "However, this incident has reminded me that these 6-star dark spirit stones are all priceless treasures. If they were just placed casually, no one would notice even if they threw a few pieces. So, manager's son, you'd better find something to cover the groove and then send the ghost messenger to guard here." Manager's son felt that what Yun Chujio said made a lot of sense, so he immediately nodded and agreed. At first, Chu Fong wondered why Yun Chujio was so kind. However, on second thought, since junior sister Yun was so warm-hearted, could it be that she had already taken these dark spirit stones as her own? After all, there were still a few cracked formation leaves on the formation disc. If she used the excuse of helping to draw the formation leaves again, wouldn't she be able to get another one? When everyone saw that the matter was settled, they left one after another. Moreover, as they could hold on for a longer period of time, they felt a little lighter. Although many people were interested in Yun Chujio's so-called secret technique, no one asked. The reason was very simple. They were afraid that they would be forced to draw the formation leaves after they learned it. The next morning, Yun Chujio woke up and put on a sickly makeup before leaving the room. Although Elder Duanmu and the others thought that Yun Chujio's craziness yesterday was a little exaggerated, they still believed that her spiritual sense was injured. Now that they saw her appearance, they were even more sure that she was seriously injured. "Since you're not feeling well, you should rest in the room. Don't come out," Elder Duanmu said with a frown. Yun Chujio clutched her chest and coughed a few times before saying, "I have to change the array leaf today. I have to go to the core of the array to take a look. I used my life to draw the array leaf. I won't be at ease if I don't see it with my own eyes." Elder Duanmu and the others didn't say anything more when they heard this. It was understandable. If they were in Yun Chujio's shoes, they would also go and take a look. Elder Duanmu and the others didn't go with her because there would be a gap in the protective array when the array leaf was changed. People with high spirit energy like them had to take care of it to prevent some people from losing their lives. Therefore, only Chu Fong and Xiao Yu followed Yun Chujio to the ghost city of Tao Tai. Island Master Qi was so angry that he gritted his teeth when he saw Xiao Yu follow Yun Chujio again. When he came back yesterday, he had already reprimanded Xiao Yu and told her to stay away from Yun Chujio, but she actually followed him obediently. He was really angered to death. Chapter 4197, Water Shortage. After the three of them left the King of Hell's residence, Xiao Yu could not help but sneer when she saw Yun Chujio's weak look. "Enough, stop pretending." Yun Chujio humphed and said, "Little Moon, you're really hurting my heart. I'm already like this, yet you still malign me. I don't want to live anymore." Xiao Yu could not be bothered with her and quickened her pace. Chu Fong hesitated for a moment and took 2 steps to catch up, saying dryly, "Is the wound on your neck all right?" "Didn't I?" Xiao Yu looked at him speechlessly. "All right, didn't you just want to say it wasn't intentional? You've already said it a few hundred times, can you not be so wishy-washy?" Chu Fang's face stiffened and he was so embarrassed that he didn't speak. Yun Chujio, who was at the back, looked at the 2 people in front of her. Her eyes flashed. Oh, there seemed to be an affair. When the 3 of them arrived at the ghost city of Tao Tai, the array masters were carefully disassembling the severely damaged array leaf. Although it was an ancient array formation, the principle of disassembling the array leaf was similar. The array masters worked together and very quickly disassembled the array leaf. Then they began to install the array leaf that Yun Chujio had drawn. Yun Chujio walked around the disassembled array leaf a few times and looked at it carefully from front to back. She felt that there was something wrong with the array leaf, but she couldn't tell what it was at the moment. She originally wanted to bring the array leaf back to study it, but the array masters tried their best to stop her. The reason was very simple. They all wanted to copy the runes on it and study it slowly in the future. Seeing this, Yun Chuzhou did not insist and left with Chu Feng and Xiao Yu. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. Although the array disc looked rather sturdy, there was an even more serious problem in front of everyone, which was the lack of water. Food was easy to deal with. After all, a fasting pill could last for a few days, but it could not do without water. The water used in the Ghost City was brought by the people of the Ghost City of Tao Tai from outside. After so many days of use, there were only a few left. Although those cultivators also brought some water, they didn't bring too much. Therefore, as time passed, the entire Ghost City became a water shortage. Island Master Qi and the other people with water spirit roots began to absorb water spirit energy from water-type spirit stones and then make some water for everyone to drink. However, this could only solve the immediate problem, and wasn't a long-term solution. The Ghost City was shrouded in the shadow of death. They did not expect to die of thirst here instead of being killed by the sandstorm of death in the end. It was really frustrating. He Xingjiu naturally did not lack water. There was plenty of water in the Great Void Mystic Realm, but it was a sin to have a treasure. Of course, this fellow would not foolishly tell everyone that he had water. At most, he would make a basin of water for Elder Duanmu and the others. He would say that he had stored the water in his storage ring. Elder Duanmu and the rest did not have any doubts. After all, this fellow could even store hundreds of sacks of chili flour, so it was normal for him to store some water. On this day, everyone gathered to discuss. Someone said, "Bah, those people outside are really nothing. We have been trapped for so long, and no one has thought of a way to come and save us." Elder Dongfang smiled bitterly. This is not their fault. The sandstorm of death is so brutal. Even if they wanted to, they would be powerless. The person who had spoken earlier also knew this logic. They were just complaining a little. Coming in was akin to throwing away their lives. Who would be stupid enough to come in and throw away their lives? Everyone sighed. If they rushed out, they would die. If they stayed here, they would die. Was there no way to survive? Chapter 4198. He Xingjiu, who was despised Yun Chuzhou, rested her chin on her hand as she listened. She was not afraid. At most, she could enter the Great Void Mystic Realm and hide. She could only come out when the sandstorm of death stopped, but Elder Duanmu and the others could not. Was there really no way out? At this moment, Elder Jia of the Flying Flower Island sighed and said, "Speaking of which, it's really unfortunate. This sandstorm of death is 3 years ahead of schedule, and it's not over yet." What the heck? Yeah, according to the records, this sandstorm of death would be over in 3 to 5 days. Why did it take so long this time? And it doesn't seem to have stopped. It can't be that it's really going on, right? Elder Dongfang echoed. At this time, an elder of the Chaotian sect said, could it be because of that bead? Didn't they say that once that bead appeared in the world, people would be plunged into misery? Island Master Qi frowned. He retorted, nonsense. Previously, when that bead of your Chaotian sect went missing, I didn't hear anything unusual happened. Moreover, the bead of the Ghost City of Tao Tai was obtained a long time ago. If something happened, it would have happened a long time ago. The elder of Chaotian sect was rendered speechless by Island Master Qi. He immediately became listless and didn't dare to speak anymore. Yun Chuzhou, on the other hand, had a different opinion of Island Master Qi. Right now, everyone was like a cornered beast. Once the statement was spread out, it would immediately disintegrate everyone's will. Therefore, regardless of whether it was true or not, he would try his best to refute this point. This fellow's expression changed as he thought about it. Chu Feng, who was beside her, saw her unsightly expression and said with concern, "Junior Sister Yun, is your spiritual sense hurting again? If you're not feeling well, you should go back to your room and rest." Yun Chuzhou nodded, got up and went back to her room. She gritted her teeth. The reason why her expression changed so much was because she remembered something from the words of the elder of Chaotian sect. Earlier, after the black bead swallowed the 2 beads, it was still boasting in her dantian. It took her a lot of effort to suppress it. However, the unusual thing was that after she was forced back to Ghost City by the sandstorm of death, the black bead didn't move at all. Even after she coaxed and scolded it, it didn't move at all. Could it be that the sandstorm of death was brought forward and did not subside for a long time because of the black pearl? Or could it be that the black pearl knew something but was not willing to tell her? So it was playing dead? The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more suspicious she felt. Although the Black Pearl was usually a freeloader, it was definitely not a kind person. Back then in the forbidden ground of the Palace of Immortals, the Black Pearl had sucked all the Hun Dun Chi into it. Could it be that the sandstorm of death was really caused by it? Thinking of this, Yun Chujio quickly looked inside her dantian and saw that the black bead was floating in a corner of her dantian. There was no movement at all. Yun Chujio shouted sternly, "Glass ball, don't play dead. Does this sandstorm of death have anything to do with you? If you don't give me an explanation today, I will. Hei Shinjio then realized that she did not seem to have anything to threaten the black bead, so she could only calm down and coax her. Ball, don't you want to find other beads? If we are trapped here forever, I can't help you find other beads, can I? So you'd better let the sandstorm of death subside." It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or Yun Chujio's words that worked, but the black bead had a reaction. However, the emotions that Yun Chujio sensed in her spiritual sense almost angered her to death. The damn black bead actually despised her. What right did a broken bead have to despise her? Shameless. Chapter 4199, The Hint of the Black Bead. Even though Yun Chujio wished that she could get the black bead out and smash it into pieces, she still had a favor to ask of the bead. She could only smile and say, "Little ball, of course I'm not as smart as you. After all, you have an extraordinary background, don't you? You big ball don't care about small people. Either calm down this death sandstorm or show me the way out. After I get out, I'll definitely try my best to find other beads for you. I think the Nameless Sword sect should have one. I'll make sure to get it for you when we get out. I think the other sects also have one. I'll get it for you when the time comes. I'll make sure you eat it until you're white and fat." Black and fat. Yun Chujio immediately felt the disdain in her mind turn into excitement. This fellow thought to herself, what a small thing. I don't believe I can't win against your stupid pearl. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking, the black bead trembled. Yun Chujio's dantian was slightly in pain, but she did not quite understand the black bead's intention. Although she could feel the black bead's vague emotions, she could not communicate with it. She could only guess what the black bead meant. After guessing for a long time, she finally understood that the black bead wanted to bring her to a place, so this fellow left the house. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu saw Yun Chujio rush out and quickly followed curiously. "Junior sister Yun, where are you going? Aren't you feeling unwell?" Chu Feng asked with concern. Yun Chujio thought to herself that she did not know where she was going, so she said vaguely, "The room is too stuffy and the atmosphere is a little oppressive. It's better to go out for a walk." Chu Feng and Xiao Yu believed her when they heard that. The atmosphere in the inn was indeed very depressing, and they could not stand it. However, after a while they found that Yun Chujio would go east, turn back, and not turn back. What was she doing? Could it be that she had gone mad again? Yun Chujio was also very miserable. She didn't know where the black bead wanted to take her, so she could only choose a direction. The black bead would tremble if it felt that something was wrong, so she had to turn back and choose a new direction. After a long time they reached the ghost city of Taotai. Yun Chujio thought to herself, did the black bead bring her here because it swallowed 2 beads? Was this foodie dreaming of finding a bead that had slipped through the net? Just as she was in a daze, the black bead trembled again and urged her to continue walking. With no other choice, Yun Chujio could only follow the black bead's instructions and continue walking forward. She did not expect to walk all the way to the edge of the deep pit, and it seemed like it wanted her to continue walking. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu thought that Yun Chujio was here to look at the array's core, so they did not have any doubts and jumped to the bottom of the pit. Yun Chujio had no choice but to jump down. As Yun Chujio and the other 2 often came here, the array masters were used to it and no one said anything. Only the elder array master nodded at Yun Chujio and the other 2. Yun Chujio was wondering why the black bead brought her here when her dantian was in pain again. She tried to wander around. Fortunately, the bottom of the pit was only so big. She quickly confirmed that the black pearl wanted her to get close to the dismantled array leaf. After Yun Chujio got close to the array leaf, no matter how Yun Chujio communicated with her spiritual sense, the black pearl did not respond. Yun Chujio could only look at the array leaf. What did the black pearl want to tell her? Chapter 4200. The strange array disk. The array master who had crashed into the wall saw that Yun Chujio was in a daze, so he came over. He said with a slightly mocking tone, "Miss Yun, you used a secret technique to draw a formation leaf previously. I wonder if you can draw 1/10 of it without using a secret technique now?" Yun Chujio glanced at him. "Of course I can't draw it. How can a good-for-nothing like me compare to you?" "Well, I've already asked Elder Duanmu and the others. As long as anyone is willing to spend their spiritual sense to draw the array leaf, he'll tell him the secret technique." "I think you're not bad. Come, he'll tell you the secret technique right now." The man's face stiffened. He had seen with his own eyes that Yun Chujio almost went crazy after using the secret technique. He would only learn it if he was stupid. Thus, the man said dryly, "I still have to study other array leaves. Take your time." Yun Chujio pursed her lips and did not say anything. Instead, she carefully looked at the array leaves in front of her. The last time she looked at it, she felt that there was something strange about it. However, after that, she forgot about it. What was wrong with it? She recalled that when she first discovered the core of the array, those array masters had said that the array disk was strange. It did not seem to be as simple as a protective array. Therefore, she cleared her throat and asked, "Everyone, I remember that you once said that this array disk was a little strange. What exactly is wrong with it?" When the array master who had crashed into the wall heard this, he immediately felt that this was a chance to win back a city. He immediately curled his lips and said, "No wonder you can't see it. After all, you are an amateur. Look at the proportion of the array disk's main body and the array leaf. It's obviously not right. Normally, the formation disk's main body should only be 1/10 of the size of the formation leaf, but this formation disk's main body is even bigger than the formation leaf. It's really strange. There's also the formation leaf. Although we don't know the ancient runes on it, we still know the connecting runes. There are 2 types of formations drawn on it. Logically speaking, this should be a defensive formation. Why are there 2 types of formations? It's really puzzling." Yun Chujio looked at the array disk when she heard that. It was just as he said. The main body of the array disk was unusually big, even bigger than the array leaf. It wasn't that she had never seen an ancient formation disk before, but it was the first time she had seen an array disk with such proportions. Her gaze fell on the array leaf again. She finally realized why she felt that this array leaf was a little strange. It was because the upper and lower halves of the runes didn't seem to belong to the same type of runes, although she didn't recognize it. However, her keen perception of the talisman seal still allowed her to sense the strangeness within it. Chu Feng, who was listening at the side, only understood a little. He pointed at the groove that contained the dark spirit stone and said, "The reason why the main body of the array disk is so big, could it be that it wants to put more dark spirit stones?" Yun Chujio glanced at him. "That groove only takes up 1/5 of the main body of the array disk. If you want to put more dark spirit stones, you can completely cultivate it into a groove. Why waste such a large area?" As Yun Chujio said this, her heart was moved. Could there be something fishy in the remaining parts of the main body of the disk array? Could there be a secret hidden inside? She walked to the disk array and took out a rolling pin to knock on it. From the sound, she could tell that there was nothing inside. Could she have guessed wrong? Therefore, she walked to the other side to knock on it. The formation master who knocked on the wall saw Yun Chujio using the rolling pin to knock on the main body of the formation plate and said unhappily, "Yun Chujio, what are you doing? If you accidentally break the main body of the formation plate, can you bear it?" Crack. A crack appeared on the main body of the formation plate and spread continuously. Chapter 4201 was trying to scam her? The array master who crashed into the wall was stunned. Shinjio was stunned. The others were also stunned. Everyone watched as the cracks grew bigger and bigger, and the main body of the array board was in a state of cracking, as if it was about to shatter completely. Shinjio felt as if her heart was bickering with a dog. Heaven and earth, she had only knocked lightly a few times. Was there a need to play this trick on her? Was it a scam? Her mind was blank at first, then it quickly started to operate. If the main body of the disk array was destroyed, then the disk array would also be destroyed. If the disk array was destroyed, then the Ghost City's protective array would also be destroyed. If the Ghost City's protective array was destroyed, then the people in the Ghost City would also die. In this way, wouldn't she become a sinner for all eternity? However, what should she do now? How could she stop the cracking speed of the main body of the disk array? In a moment of desperation, she took out the silk net from the ball of yarn and threw it at the main body of the disc array. It was unknown whether the silk net worked or if the cracking happened to reach a certain degree, but the cracking of the disc array finally stopped. Hei Shinjio let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, the main body of the disc array was saved for the time being. After a dead silence, the array master who crashed into the wall said in exasperation, "Yun Chujio, look at what you've done. If the main body of the disc array is destroyed, we will all die together." Hei Shinjio felt a little guilty, so she did not say anything. She just frowned and looked at the cracks on the main body. The elderly array master said, "This should be a coincidence. Miss Yun only knocked on the disc array a few times just now. How could the main body of the disc array be cracked?" The other array masters immediately retorted, "Coincidence? Nothing happened for so many days. How could something happen to her when she knocked? What a troublemaker." Chu Fong coldly said from the side, "Do you have a conscience? If junior sister Yun hadn't found the array core and spent her spiritual sense to draw the array leaf, you would have died by now." Those people looked a little embarrassed. Someone said, 1 yard is 1 yard. She found the array core and drew the array leaf. We are naturally grateful to her. But it's wrong for her to break the main body of the array disc. That's right. If she didn't find the array core or draw the array leaf, we might not have died. But now, once the array disc is broken, we really won't be able to live. Chu Fong and Xiao Yu were almost angered to death by these people's shamelessness. What a bunch of ingrates. At this moment, Ghost Messenger had already run to report the matter to Manager Sunday. Upon hearing that the array disc's main body was cracked, Manager Sun immediately rushed over with his men and even informed Island Master Chi and the others. Everyone arrived very quickly. They looked at the crack on the main body of the formation disc and then looked at the guilty-looking Hei Shinjio. They really wanted to strangle her to death. However, they were all influential figures. When they thought of Yun Chujio's previous contributions, it did not seem good to turn hostile now. Therefore, many people remained silent. Island Master Chi had always disliked Yun Chujio, so he naturally did not have any scruples. He snorted coldly and said, "Yun Chujio, although you have made great contributions in the past, do you know that because of your nonsense, we have to follow you to our deaths?" Yun Chujio had 100 words that could kill Island Master Chi, but this guy was more or less guilty, so it was rare that he did not say anything. Manager Sun felt his head buzzing, but he was the person in charge, so he naturally had to come out to maintain the scene, so he said, "Everyone, the matter has already happened, there's no point in pursuing it now. Why don't we discuss how to prevent the main body of the disc from continuing to crack? Is there any way to reinforce it?" Chapter 4202, The protective array was completely broken. The array masters shook their heads. The array leaves can be strengthened, but it's too difficult to strengthen the main body of the array disc, especially since the main body of the array disc is much larger than normal. Even now, we don't dare to use it lightly, not to mention that there's no way to strengthen it. The main body of the array disc cracked very quickly just now. It might be completely broken if we touch it. That's right. The sticky silk net that Yun Chujio took out is light and sticky. That's why it can temporarily stop the cracks. If we use other methods, we might really break the main body of the formation plate completely. While everyone was discussing, Yun Chujio said weakly, "Since the sticky silk net is useful, leave the sticky silk on any of you to me. I'll weave the net." Everyone stared at her when they heard that. Do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Who would collect this thing for no reason? Without the sticky web, there was no other way, so everyone could only gather around the array board and sigh. The array master who crashed into the wall saw that Yun Chujio was still standing beside the main body of the array board. He was instantly furious. "Yun Chujio, why are you still standing there? Do you want to knock a few more times? Do you know that because of your nonsense we're all going to die because of you? You jinx." Yun Chujio originally thought that although she did not do it on purpose, the cracking of the formation disc was somehow related to her, so she had been holding it in and did not say anything. Now that she saw that he was not going to let it go, this fellow could not stand it anymore. "Shut the fuck up. Let's not talk about whether this cracking has anything to do with me. Even if it does, do you have the right to criticize me? Now that you are so capable, where did you go when you were looking for the formation core? Where did you go when you were drawing the formation leaf? What right do you have to criticize me, a coward who is afraid of death? If you continue to complain, I will smash this formation plate into pieces. No one will be able to live anymore." Yun Chujio took out a rolling pin as she spoke. To be honest, she wanted to scare the formation master who had crashed into the wall. However, she did not expect to step on a small stone and her body staggered. The rolling pin in her hand smashed onto the body of the formation plate. Crack, crack, crack. The main body of the array board started to crack again. Moreover, the speed was much faster than before. The sticky silk net covering it could not stop the main body of the array board from continuing to crack. Hei Shinjio felt as if she was cursing a dog in her heart. What kind of dog shit luck did she have? She was so unlucky. Everyone was shocked by this turn of events. For a moment, they were stunned on the spot and watched as the main body of the array board continued to crack. They had already imagined the ending of them being strangled by the sandstorm of death. Their minds were filled with fear. They didn't even have the time to hate Yun Chujio. It was over. They were really going to die this time. Yun Chujio was the fastest to react. She shouted, "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and activate the temporary protective array. Are we going to wait for death here?" Manager Sun finally reacted. He immediately ordered the array masters to activate the temporary protective array. Although the temporary protective array was much weaker than the one in Ghost City and the area it covered was much smaller, it could still last for 2 days. Fortunately, the core of the temporary protective array was not far from the Ghost City of Taotai. This was understandable because the people of the Ghost City of Taotai naturally had selfish motives and wanted to protect the Ghost City of Taotai. Therefore, the Ghost City of Taotai was completely under the protection of the temporary protective array. At this time, the main body of the array disc was completely broken, and the array leaves installed on it fell off one after another. As the array leaves fell off, the protective array of the Ghost City began to break and eventually completely disappeared. Chapter 4203, Stone Tablet. Seeing this, everyone turned to look at the instigator with resentment. Hei Shinjio wanted to explain, but she knew that the more she explained, the worse it would get. She was really unlucky. Elder Duanmu and the other two silently approached Yun Chujio. The reason was simple. They were afraid that someone would harm Yun Chujio in the face of public anger. At this moment, another person leaped to the bottom of the pit. It was Tower Master Luochin. He had just heard about this matter and was worried that people would find trouble with Yun Chujio, so he hurried over. "Little Jio, I have something to ask you. Come with me." Tower Master Luochin said this because he wanted to take Yun Chujio away from here so that there wouldn't be any conflict. Moreover, the temporary protective array could only last for 2 days. In the end, if there was really no other way, he would use a secret technique to send Yun Chujio away. Yun Chujio did not reply. Instead, she looked at the broken array disc with a somewhat dull gaze. Seeing that she did not say anything, Tower Master Luochin took a few steps closer to her. He stretched out his hand to grab her arm, but he did not expect Yun Chujio to jump onto the broken array disc's main body. Then, he stored the 6-star Dark Spirit Stones into his storage ring. Everyone, including Elder Duanmu and the others, was so angry that their noses almost went crooked. How greedy were you? At this time, you still didn't forget to take advantage of me. Are you planning to save them for the Hell King's Palace flower? After Yun Chujio kept the Dark Spirit Stones, she also kept the array disc's main pieces and the array leaves into her storage rings. Everyone was speechless. They were convinced that she was so greedy. When everyone was about to take care of Hei Shinjio, they were surprised to find that after Yun Chujio kept all the things, what was revealed below was not sand but a huge stone slab. To be precise, the stone slab was only 1 circle smaller than the main body of the array board. Judging from the material, it was the same as the stone used for the city wall, which was also a giant black stone. The few array masters who were left exclaimed, "Ah! No wonder the main body of the array board of the Ghost City Defense Array is much larger than the ordinary one. It is to hide the stone slab below. In that case, other than the other array on the array leaf, it is most likely a concealment array. The purpose of the concealment array is to hide the stone slab. Do you guys feel it? There seems to be an unusual aura underneath this stone tablet." "You're right. Could it be that the formation plate from before has the function of a seal as well as a protective formation? Oh my god, could there be something terrifying being imprisoned underneath?" Yun Chujio stared at the stone tablet in a daze. The emotions that the black bead conveyed to her were a little conflicted. It seemed like it did not want her to lift the stone tablet, but it wanted her to lift the stone tablet. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. At this point she could only take a gamble. She walked forward and wanted to lift the stone tablet, but she was immediately stopped by everyone. Yun Chujio, stop. Do you still think that you haven't caused enough trouble? All of this is your fault. That's right. If there is something terrifying inside, once it is opened, the consequences will be unimaginable. That's right. Since there's an ancient formation suppressing this place, it means that the thing below must be extraordinary. If it's released, it'll be a disaster. Yun Chujio glanced at them and sneered, if it weren't for the people I care about, do you think that I would be willing to risk my life to get involved in this mess? You're not blind and you're not blind either. Naturally, you know that I didn't do it on purpose. So, if anyone tries to smear me again, don't blame me for being impolite. Now, I have no other choice. Even if I don't open this stone tablet, the Spirit Stone Protective Array can only last for 2 days. If that's the case, why not take a gamble? Chapter 4204 Disappeared. Yun Chujio's body emitted a cold killing intent. Those people subconsciously moved aside, allowing Yun Chujio to bend over and lift the stone slab. Tower Master Luchen's expression was a little gloomy. He naturally didn't think that he was one of the people that Yun Chujio mentioned that she cared about. If she cared about her, she wouldn't not even look at him. He originally thought that this time he could finally let Yun Chujio realize his deep feelings for her. In the end, it seemed like he was unnecessary. No matter how unfavorable the situation was for her, she could still control the situation. There was no need for him at all. However, he looked at Yun Chujio with even more fervent eyes. The woman he liked was naturally extraordinary. Only such a woman was worthy of him giving everything he had. Just as Tower Master Luochen was thinking, everyone let out a cry of surprise, because everyone watched Yun Chujio disappear on the spot. To be precise, when she lifted the stone slab, there seemed to be a huge suction force sucking her in, and then the stone slab was covered once again. Chu Feng and Xiao Yu hurriedly went to lift the stone slab, but they realized that no matter how hard they tried, they were unable to move the stone slab in the slightest. It didn't make sense. Yun Chujio didn't seem to have used much strength just now, so why couldn't they lift it? Elder Duanmu and the others quickly came over to help, but they found that they still couldn't move the stone slab. What was going on? I guess there's an array formation on the stone slab, or there's a restriction under it. That's why we can't move it, an array formation master guessed. That's not right. How could Yun Chujio be able to move it? Someone asked in confusion. Everyone stared at each other in confusion. That's right. How could Yun Chujio be able to move the stone slab? Everyone was puzzled. Someone gloated, this is also retribution. She probably lost her life. If it wasn't for her, we would at least be able to hold on for a period of time. Perhaps the sandstorm of death would have stopped. Chu Feng couldn't take it anymore and went up to fight with that person. Do you have a conscience? If it wasn't for junior sister Yun, you would have died long ago. How dare you curse junior sister Yun? He'll strangle you to death. Xiao Yu also kicked that person a few times. Although she hated that trash Yun Chujio, she didn't know why, but her heart was filled with anxiety. Manager's son looked at the mess in front of him and even wanted to die. However, he couldn't give up. Even if there was a chance of survival, he had to persevere. Perhaps the sandstorm of death would stop tomorrow. At this time, everyone had already pulled the array master who had been beaten into a pig's head to the side. Chu Feng was also stopped by Elder Gu. Manager's son sighed and said, everyone has seen the current situation. The temporary protective array can last for at most 2 days. If we grit our teeth and plug the loophole, we might be able to last for another day or two. There might be a miracle. Therefore, everyone needs to work together to protect the protective array. Don't bother about other things. Hearing this, everyone knew that Manager's son's words made sense, so they could only nod their heads in agreement. To be honest, both Manager's son and the others felt that Yun Chujio was very likely dead. After all, the thing that was suppressed by the ancient array formation must be very terrifying, so there was no chance for her to survive. Therefore, everyone left the deep pit and went to inspect the Spirit Stone Protective Array. Tower Master Luochen hesitated for a moment, but he still left with the people of the 9 pavilions. He subconsciously felt that Yun Chujio would be fine. What he needed to do now was to survive so that he could have a chance to be with her. In the end, only Chu Feng and Xiao Yu stayed behind. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.